Yeah, so I mean, we're aiming to be recording for about 2 hours, but depending on
We'll
how the
see.
conversation goes, yeah, I mean, if we end up fucking hating each other after 45, we can always cut it there, or and that, yeah. But look, let's. This is Jammerz. What's going on, bro? How are you?
Yeah, what's going on, Sam? Or should I say, I'm in the presence of SamDDing. Like you've actually been making a couple of appearances and a couple of waves in this past 365 days.
Yeah,
It's been,
dude.
I'm pretty proud of you, man. I'm pretty proud of you,
Thank
honestly.
you, bro. Thank you. Yeah, because I think you were the first. You probably don't know this, but you were the
Okay.
first of like the industry guys that I ever talked to, and it was the my first Celtic Throwdown. Like being from Ireland, my first Celtic Throwdown, that was like a big thing. I was like, I'm going to a show, right? And uh, was it Ace of Spuds? No, it was AJ, the guy who runs Celtic Throwdown. He said you should probably
Shouts to
go.
AJ.
Yeah, but he goes, you should probably have a chat with Jammerz. He's a Street Fighter commentator, and I was like, oh, sweet. And I walked over, and I was like, hey, how do I get better at commentary? And I remember you told me you were just like, just listen back to your stuff. Just listen back to your stuff. That was like your big. We definitely had like a 10-15 minute conversation, but that thing still sticks with me, man. Like you were like, you told me you just put on your commentary from the previous day as you're like cleaning your house just on the speakers or whatever, and you can kind of pick stuff out that you're like, right, I'm never doing that again and stuff.
I
um
mean, like over time, because I think the Celtic Throwdown you're talking about it has to be 2019.
oh,
It,
it was
it must have
before that. It
been.
was
Was it
before
before
that. I
2019?
think it was 2018. I'm not sure.
It was either 2018 or 2019 because
Right.
I've actually only been Celtic Throwdown once myself actually.
Oh,
So
so
it was definitely one of those 2 years.
right.
So, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind talking to people about commentary because a lot of people want to do it more than people realize.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just some things are very simple. Obviously my perspective on things have changed, but again the basics, it's still the same. It's like, okay, how do you get better? Well, first you have to listen back to yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Even if you like sound good, are you saying the right things, do you have the right energy, so on and so forth. And if you can't even listen back to yourself or evaluate your work, not just for commentary, just the things in general, then you're not even going to make the first step to getting better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
My pet peeve, and like shout out to anybody who does this, because I mean it's probably not the easiest thing, but like when people ask how do I start commentary, how do I become a commentator, and like the answer is just do it. Make all of the mistakes. Like that, the question of like, hey, can you review this, is so much more important than where do I get my start?
um, yeah, I can't disagree with that. I'm trying to think. It's like it's more, instead of saying just do it, find find a platform or find somewhere where it's like, hey, I noticed that you do these events and you do solo commentary or whatever. Do you mind if I join you or hop on the mic one time? And you have to understand, like Sam, you'll know this. People watching this at home, you have to understand. I've been doing this since 2014. Times are a lot different than they used to be back then. There wasn't as many opportunities to just go, hey, can I do commentary on this in this environment on this platform? More online events are happening. People have got updated equipment and like, so
Yeah.
when people say to you now, it's like, oh, how do I start? It's like, you do know, like, the world's your oyster. You could literally find, even if the stream has like 10 viewers, you can find an opportunity. You can do it yourself. You could make a YouTube video,
Yep.
record it, and then do like some quick play by play and then some evaluating on that stuff. So there's many more avenues than there was about 8-9 years ago. I can tell you that much.
Jesus, man. Yeah. I when I started 5, 6 years ago now, I can't remember, but I I got all of my stuff doing online tournaments, and this was before online tournaments were cool, like pre-COVID, like and stuff. So when I told people, I commentate Tekken from my bedroom, they're like, "Oh, you're like a YouTuber. That's cool." And I'm like, "Not really, but yeah, you get that." But yeah, I mean, you're entirely correct about that. There's definitely a lot more avenues, but I think because I've definitely told this story before, or like had the same thought, but commentary looks easy if you watch it from an outside in. Like it just looks like we're talking, like, you know. But I think when people hit that block of realizing, oh, there's work to do, like that's when people tend to kind of drop off, and it's very few people come up as, do you know, like you see a new guy and you're like, God, that guy's good, and then a month and you're like, hey, where did that guy go?
Do you know what, right? I'll tell you something. I've said this to multiple people on my stream, but in the past, it's the further away you are from the actual game, the more you can see. So if you look at the players, they only see the game. There's so much going on in the game, they're only looking at the game. Then you go to the commentators. What are the commentators? They're the second, third pair of eyes, right? So I give you their perspective and my opinion on their perspective. So I can see more than what they can see because they're in the heat of the moment. And then if you take a step further away from that, you got the spectators, right? The spectators can see the game, they can hear the commentators, and remember, they have the least to think about. So that's what probably why you see that the viewers are the most judgmental. They're like, oh, the commentator said this, they were incorrect here. The commentator did that, they were fantastic. Why didn't the player do this? Because they're not in the hot seat. The less they have to think about, the better. So they feel they have more of a broader perspective without understanding the ins and outs, right? So I always say it's a shift in perspective. Now, when you said like, oh, that guy's sick, when there's some cool commentators, you know what? It's interesting because when the pandemic happened, it's like before the pandemic, there was a sort of like pecking order. You could do commentary, but it was very difficult for yourself to elevate yourself and get the opportunities you deserve. And I'll get onto that shortly. Mm-hmm. But when the pandemic happened, the barrier just disappeared. It didn't break. It just vanished. Like, so more people had the opportunity because instead of having a certain skill set or meeting a criteria, all you needed was what we have right now: microphone, headset, and like,
sure.
can I hear and see you? That's it. That's literally it. But and then more people. Oh, go for it, please.
I'm just curious what you mean by that, because I still think there is a pecking order, and I mean I can only kind of speak from the Tekken perspective that you know, you have your kind of best in the world, best in the region, and it kind of all filters down from there, and each kind of tier has kind of almost subs. I don't want to offend any of the commentators like that I work with or anything, but like, you know, like Spag, for instance, he's one of the best in the world and definitely the number one in Europe, right? So like, I'm not about to jump into to take Spag's spot. I'll work with him, like, and that sort of stuff, but Spag has so much of a kind of a legacy in this game. But I mean, that was definitely around before the pandemic, and I don't know if I 100% agree that it's gone now. I mean, I think that the top tier is still the top tier, and then just there's been more opportunities kind of down the way, because I mean, your locals was kind of pre-pandemic, before online stuff was cool. Like, your local was the place where you're going to get tournament experience, like commentary. But now you can kind of get in this sort of online sphere where you can do an American show if you don't mind losing a bit of sleep, like, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, of course. No, okay. Probably I should have rephrased it. That you are right. There is still a pecking order, but I'd say, let me say the gap has shrunk. It's like significantly,
right?
Because all right. Let me put it to you like this, right? You went to Evo last year. Mm-hmm. If there was no pandemic, do you think you would even have a shot at going to Evo?
That's a curious question.
That's putting it like very, very black and white, because obviously, for those of you who don't know, there's a little bit more nuance to how Sam made it to Evo. But if you put it in the huge perspective of things, it's like, right, if the last year and a half, 2 years didn't happen with you getting more appearances, you know, in online tournaments
and that sort of stuff,
working with certain people, would you have even gotten a shot to do that? You would have had to go through that natural order of, right, I would have had to apply this way, wait 5 more years of experience, this, that. But again, it's a kind of fast track. But again, I've said this multiple times in the world, and I've said it in interviews, and I've said it like to people as well. It's this, yes, there is a pecking order, but with how certain things go, sometimes you do need to, as you say, network or know somebody, and it does make it increases your chances. It doesn't guarantee you anything. It just
Straight.
increases your chances. Now, look, last year Evo was my first Evo.
Yeah.
I've never been to Evo before that.
Damn.
Now, I said to myself, I said, look, if I wasn't working with the production company behind Evo, or even doing some things prior to that, I might not have had a look in, because 2019, I was in a decent position, but I was still way behind a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And some things people need to learn is, like, it's all based on, you mentioned the word legacy. Experience is there as well, because you do need experience behind a lot before going to a lot of these big events. And it's a case of, in 2019, would I have had a chance to go Evo that year? Probably not. Maybe 2020 I would have a better chance, but obviously things had to be reset or changed entirely.
Yeah.
Because of said pandemic. So how things shifted over the past couple of years has been interesting. I'd probably say, again, because like doing this, I watch other people as well. I watch tons of other people. Obviously, shouts to Dunk. Dunk stands out for me.
He's the guy, man.
Dunk's a bit of an idiot, but like I'll say that, and he knows I'll say that as well. Dunk's a bit of an idiot, but like no, Dunk's pretty good. And you know what? You really got to shout out C4 for that, because
dude,
C4 he used to do these exhibitions, or he still does it, but he used to do like exhibitions before they turn into round robins or something. I could have got wrong. He's gonna correct me when he sees this. He used to just do events and give people a platform to talk about fighting games, and I think that's how I want to say scouted Dunk.
right.
And then I didn't know Dunk when he started doing these, but then C4 would go, he's the next best, or one of the next best commentators to.
Damn.
He was saying it from Dunk's inception in the FGC. Right? He was
Damn.
saying that from a long time.
Yeah.
And then Dunk has been proving it time and time again.
Totally. Yeah, dude. I mean, I only met Dunk properly for the first time at UFA, and just sitting talking to him about like what basically. You see, I think I need to preface this. This was never really a podcast idea. This is just how I talk to people at like events and stuff. Like, like I love talking about commentary with other commentators and stuff. But talking to Dunk about commentary, he's really knowledgeable about like what the show should be, what his role in that whole show is, what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are, and that sort of stuff. He's really, really knowledgeable. I know he kind of comes off like a memer, or like just kind of out to have fun and stuff, but he's very aware of the way he commentates and that sort of stuff. It's really cool.
I mean, like I believe he came from an esports background. He just had to learn how fighting games work. And it's not, I didn't have a similar background. I used to do YouTube videos.
You told me this before. Did you do League of Legends?
No, I did a Call of Duty video.
Call of Duty, that was it, yeah.
So I used to just get a camera, get a microphone, and just talk over gameplay. So the concept was there. You just didn't know how it worked in the FGC.
Yeah.
And it's like, right, that's something you really have to accumulate experience and understand over time, because it's not just solo, it's two people. It's an extremely different dynamic. Things change at a drop of a hat. There's so many factors that you don't just learn overnight.
Sure.
But when it comes to just some form of public speaking, quite a number of people have actually had, like, they've got that experience. It's just not refined for fighting game events.
Yeah.
Now, there was Dunk. Who was the other guy? I saw him at UFA. I worked with him. Lazarus. Yes. I don't know if he's gonna see this, but shout outs to Lazarus, because I think Lazarus has got a lot of potential in this.
Totally.
Because I don't know what his real life occupation is, or how much time he's put into commentating in general. But I think he has a lot of potential doing this. I can't remember if I've seen him do Guilty Gear. I can't remember where I've seen him.
Was he doing BlazBlue or something at UFA?
You might be right. Laz is gonna kill. Laz is gonna kill us because I just can't remember. But
I stayed in the same room as him at UFA as well.
But the thing is, it's like, I think one thing that gets glanced over is the whole FGC sphere and esports system or ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, the bubble. It's a lot of people aren't looking at you're too busy focused on how you can stay in the space, stay relevant, and keep prospering in the space. And you're not looking at the people behind you. Even if you don't have to directly focus on them, you should kind of keep like just maybe a slight glance, a half an eye, because some of these guys are pretty damn good and they just don't get the opportunities. And what happens in this space is you actually have tons of very decent commentators, but they've kind of plateaued, and it's not their fault, because when you start out with commentary, people tell you, and I used to get this like all the time, right? He doesn't know the game, he doesn't know X, he doesn't know Y, he doesn't know Z, right? And
That upsets me.
But Sam, that's super important. Don't get me wrong, it's super important. But what happens is when you do learn the game and you do learn your scene, like that's it. Like you just plateau there, and it's not your fault, because then it takes a production company, a word of mouth recommendation from someone else to give you that opportunity to elevate and be seen on the next level.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get the opportunity, like, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. No, that's not the one. Right. Lead the horse to water, but you can't force it to drink.
Fair.
Sort of thing.
Fair.
It's like some people in the past, they've given me opportunities, and it's like, right, I've given you this platform. You need to make use of it. If you don't, then you've kind of squandered your chance. Other people just don't even get a look in at the pond. And it's like, how do you elevate people to that next level if you don't give them that opportunity? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so like, I mean, I completely agree that there's definitely that. So I was told again that I don't understand the game. I got turned down for a show. I applied for it with my showreel. Now, to be fair, my showreel was ass. It was me screaming for 3 minutes. Like, it was just, you know, because I thought that was my selling factor. I was the big boy who's gonna shout
to someone it is to someone it is,
right? But so I sent this reel away, and the guys got back to me and said, oh, it's going through do you know the classic tournament don't want you there? We're putting it to the committee now. The date for commentators is probably next week sometime. Didn't get a word, like kept like reaching out and stuff. And then I got told, and this wasn't even officially, I didn't get a reply. I knew one of the guys who was on the team, and he said, yeah, look, they don't want you there because you don't understand the game. And I was like, at that point, I was like trying to compete as well. So like I was putting hours and hours into the game, but it was a thing of, I didn't want to commentate frame data. I didn't want to commentate like that sort of stuff. So I would actively, and I still do, I move away from like super analytical breaking down stuff, like commentating for top players. That's what I want to stay away from. Like I want to commentate for everybody else. I would rather make it an entertaining show than a clippable YouTube tutorial on how to beat that character, you know?
I think obviously because I'm an analytical dude, so I can see that. Now, obviously, one thing you did mention, and this is super important for anybody at home, your perspective needs to change on how these events look. Instead of looking at it as a tournament, you need to look at it as a show. If you look at it as a show, it's a lot different, because it's like, right, call times, keeping the energy up, you know, really selling a narrative, selling a storyline, you know, being the best you can be at this event, the World Finals, wherever it is. So if you don't look at tournaments as tournaments and look at them as shows, like, how is this broadcast or show going to act? Because look, you've worked at a lot of companies now. They give you the runner show, the CTAs, they give you all sorts. And this is where a lot of commentators or people miss something, because you don't see it. You don't see the professional side of things.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to knowing a game, it's kind of an unwritten rule. It's, if I'm going to bring you on board, I'm expecting you to know a little bit or an inkling about the game. Sure. Now, there's going to be, everyone interprets this differently, because I like I said, for me, when I started commentating, I was exuberant, had the energy, I'd talk, but it'd be, a lot of people said it was mindless talking, and it's like, it doesn't know the game, it doesn't know the scene. And with that, what do you go and do? You run off and you go and learn the game. Now, like you said, you don't want to commentate frame data. You don't have to. You actually don't have to. You can know some things, you know, let's say +3, for example. But it's like, okay, you're going to say, all right, you know, Akuma has huge frame advantage in this situation, which leads to this. This takes a while, but you can turn frame data into a very concise but entertaining sentence, right? So I'll give you before you go. I'll give you a quick example, right? There's I'll give you a combo from Street Fighter 5.
Mm-hmm.
So Rashid, he's a crazy character. He's got great mobility. He's nuts, right? His stand medium punch is +3 on block. You don't need to know what that is. I'll say right. Stand medium punch is the combo starter and it's a huge threat. And if he gets the hit, he can end in his eagle spike, which is this running kick he comes at you.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you can string that into a sentence that just goes, oh, okay. Starts out the combo with a counter hit, standing medium punch, and ends with the eagle spike, and make that entertaining. And no frame data was mentioned at all.
Sure.
But you do know in your head you do know it's +2 because if someone said, "Oh, Sam, why did the opponent get counter hit here?" You just go because it's +3 frame advantage and the mileage on counter hit is huge.
Yeah.
I'd say you need to know this stuff only if you get questioned on it later. In the moment, because you have to keep up with the action, which is hard in itself, by the way. You might not need to say it on the spot. There's other things where I still do it. I'll mention numbers. I'm like, oh, that's 6 frame startup,
Sure.
and this is -8, and this does that, and it's like, but that sometimes that's just me talking to myself, and thousands of people just happen to hear it.
Yeah, I know, I totally, like, I do agree, but when even the term standing medium punch, like, I understand that concept from, like, watching Street Fighter tournaments and doing that sort of stuff, but I would much prefer to say, yo, you see that big swinging punch he's throwing there? That's dangerous. Keep an eye out for that thing. And I would change it to, if I don't have a knowledge of the kind of 6-button game, like, which I didn't for a long time. I was a Tekken guy, and that was it. I didn't play other fighting games until I kind of learned about the world of FGC and that sort of stuff. But, like, the term medium punch didn't make sense to me. Now, obviously, I understand the sort of 6-button layout, light, medium, and heavy, and that sort of stuff. Like, so now I get what you're talking about. If you said Rashid's standing medium punch is +3, counter a combo starter, I'm like, all right, cool, I'm there. But I suppose I come into this from a really different point, because like, I wouldn't watch when I started, like, if I wasn't into fighting games at all and I just happened to turn on a stream that was Capcom World Finals, like, let's go Capcom Cup, like, and that sort of stuff, I'm just watching that as, a show, as a, wow, look at all this, the fireworks and stuff coming up, like, or whatever. I don't understand even the concept of a standing medium punch. I know what a punch is, but the standing and medium, that sort of stuff what's that, like, So I would say, like, gut punch or big, like, overhead is a great word. And I think FGC kind of misses that, because it describes everything right there. And the term overhead in those 2D, like, games, like, and if you say something like an overhead beats crouch, those words make sense outside of the sphere. So he's fishing with the overhead makes so much more sense, because I can see him do a punch like this or a kick that comes out over his head, and I'm like, I see what he's doing here. And then if it lands, or if there's a counter to that, I'm able to follow this story while having no knowledge of this game whatsoever. This is what I'm saying, that I don't commentate for top players. I commentate for the 90, like, Tekken sold 10 million copies. What? 100 top players that will understand frame data at its, like, minutia?
Even then, my counter argument to that is, even spectators at home, some of them are players too.
Sure.
Even if they're mid to low level, they do understand the basics, and some spectators come with this expectancy. It's like, whoever's jumping on this mic, they better know what the fuck they're talking about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's this thing. All right, so I used to do this and then I stopped, but you can kind of put a spin on it. What you should do is, since you call things how you visually see them, it's like, okay, cool. Then look up some moves that are vastly similar.
Yeah.
So not even move names. Not even move names. You just go, right. Okay, so Akuma has a Shoryuken, right? Hits him with the uppercut. I'm pretty sure someone in Tekken has a haymaker. Just go, right, who has the haymaker? Goes, hits him with the haymaker. Hits him with the right hook. Hits him with the jab. Oh, okay. You know what a low is. Everyone knows what a low is. He goes, go for the low. Okay, goes for the German suplex, goes for the dragon suplex. Like, there's things you can relate to, but then it's like, or sorry, not just you, but people at home can relate to. You really have to mix and match certain things.
Yeah.
If you want to make your style, you just have to know the basics of this move, what it actually is in the game before you go. Because look, any move, right? Okay. So Mika has a grab in Street Fighter 5 that looks like King's giant swing.
Right.
But you just call it giant swing because you know what a giant swing is,
Yep.
and it's a wrestling move.
Yep.
But any move you see that looks remotely like King's shining wizard, you're just like, yeah, hits him with the shining wizard. It could have had a move name before that no one knows about.
Yeah.
But you innately know it as shining wizard.
Shining wizard. Yeah, it's the running grab, dude. The funniest thing is Armor King has the same move. Sorry, I have one rule about this podcast. Let's not talk about like specifics of fighting games and stuff, but this is a hilarious story. And I'm not going to name the commentator, but Armor King has the same move, but on his command list, it's called a Shining Black, right? Just because he's like that darker alternative or whatever, right? But I was just doing it with I just said like, oh wow, he goes for the Shining Wizard because it's the grab with the knee into the face. Easy as. And goes, nah, bro, that's called a Black Wizard, man. He did the Black Wizard. I was like, bro, it's called a Shining Black. I get what you did there, but you know, the Black Wizard, bro.
That's funny. But no, it's there's so many different. Listen, you have to remember, like commentating, it's an art form. There's no right way to do it. There's always going to be a different art style.
It's like playing the game.
A commentary perspective or something. Obviously, there are some basics. There are some unwritten rules, which I think probably this is weird, right? Because I know there's been certain things come up and disappear in the FGC. I remember there was like a code of conduct someone writ, and then that just disappeared into the ether. You know, I think there's a commentators union or something like that.
Oh yeah.
There's certain things that crop up here and there, but it's not like official. People follow these things. I was speaking to some people about this the other day, right? Because I always, whenever you go to events, right, always try and have a post commentators talk. Always, just like the players do. Try and have a post commentators talk. It could be you guys just chatting shit about God knows what. It doesn't even have to be about the game, or you could be catching up on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, whatever. I don't know. But always have that talk, because you always hear just about different perspectives, different angles on things. And then obviously when it comes to the game, you come to the game. Because I think in general, not enough commentators speak to each other. This is going to be hard to articulate, because commentators speak to each other on social media. And when you're on a event, let's say there's 6 commentators, you're going to eventually talk to all of them. But the most amount of time these guys are talking to each other is on the job. It's not pre-event or post-event. It might be a dinner, but it might not be like post-event.
Yeah.
How many of you guys have conversations on WhatsApp? How many of you guys have the same interests? Because when you talk to commentators, you can just build a natural friendship chemistry, which helps for events as well. So, like, again, if me and you were to work on something, I was like, oh yeah, I've spoken to Sam off camera. We've spoken on his podcast. We've done this, we've done that. So it's like, right, our kind of natural friendship can be brought onto camera. And ultimately what you want for a lot of these events, this is why people rate pairings super highly.
Yep.
It's like, that is a conversation that would have happened even if the cameras wasn't on them.
Yeah.
That exact conversation they're having commentating, they just bring the play-by-play aspect to it. It would have happened regardless.
Yeah.
Some people it looks extremely forced. Other people, it is hella natural. So it's something that a lot of guys try to aspire to, and it's been difficult these days because I don't have like a definitive partner. I've been doing this for a long time.
Sure.
Don't have a definitive partner. But then I'm going to give you some names. Let me see if you remember.
Okay.
Right. Logan.
Yeah, of course.
Who's his partner?
F-word.
There you go. Right. Sajam. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear Sajam?
Tasty Steve, right? Like,
right.
You know.
Okay. So then we get Markman. Who's the go-to partner for?
Rip, maybe? Markman and Rip?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Right. So again, but now if I say Jammerz.
Yeah, okay.
Right. I don't know. So right, a lot of guys, a lot of people get rated as individuals, which is great. But then for events, what you don't want is, you don't want a team, or you don't want 2 individuals. You want a team.
Sure.
Right? Now, two individuals, you can build. This is something I've seen recently as well. You can get six people who've never worked with each other before, and you can kind of create a pairing.
Sure.
But that's a big risk. If it's a risk the production teams are willing to take, I respect them, because sometimes I feel you got to be thrown under the bus to learn about like what's going on.
Yeah.
And in other times, especially with the community, they want their favorite pairings. Whenever they watch the event, it's like, where's my favorite pairing? They always make this show entertaining.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it is. So there's just a lot of dynamics and thoughts that you really have to pay attention to. And some of these pairings can come from post-event talks.
Yeah.
And other commentators.
I agree. I mean, the best style of commentary feels like a conversation. Like, you know, even as I'm watching it, I get sucked in. Like, even somebody that, like, is in the industry, if there's really, really good chemistry between the two, I'm just like sitting there as if I'm just listening into a conversation that's happening, and like whilst the game is on, like, you know. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I like the idea of getting random people together and creating a good pairing, but there's people out there that are difficult to get along with, like, you know, like, I mean,
but you'll always have that though. And sorry, excuse me, you'll always have that. And I think one of my gripes nowadays is production teams or people will bring on several people together and assume they all play nice. And I remember this happened once. So I think it happened 1 or 2 years ago. Somebody messaged me and they said, I can't work with this person. I was like, whoa, where the hell did this come from? Ooh. Like it literally just came out firing all cylinders. I was like, whoa. Dang. And I was like, okay. And then the production team messaged me and said, were you aware of this? And I said, partially. They said, why did no one say anything? I said, why didn't you ask them prior to the event?
Yeah, it's your job. You're doing the production.
The thing is, but here's the thing, right? Everyone's so focused on their job, they're just going to assume. Because look, at the end of the day, you've heard it, right? Production teams, all they say is this: I want a good show.
Yep.
They do not go into the specifics or the semantics about anything. Mm-hmm. They just they want a good show. So when you hear that, you trying to get to these big events or trying to get big in the game, your perspective changes. Because for the longest time, look, I was like super analytical. I was going into things like very specific. And then I thought to myself, nah, my vision of the game is skewed. It's very skewed because it only tailors to a very small percentage. But then when I started working with different people and just listening in on what they say, it's like, oh yeah, you know what? Love this guy's energy. These guys got great chemistry. These guys got good vibes. And the production team's like, all right, guys, I need energy for the next 8 hours. I'm like, not once did you hear the word knowledge.
Yep.
Not once did you hear that. So I'm like, okay, I learn things for me. I don't learn it because it's a requirement. I learn things for me because of my morbid curiosity about how these things work. And when I sit down at an event, I'll be like, I know this stuff. I don't care if anybody else knows it.
Sure.
But then, for other people coming into it, they're just like, oh, this is why you get a lot of people who try to be Yipes, Steve, the replicas. They're just like, oh, all you need is, oh my God, hits it with the wild standing to, That's right. And then when production, it is like, why is this guy mindlessly screaming? It's like, because all you wanted was energy, so they gave it to you. You can't then think about it now.
God,
if they make it, trust me, production teams have more power than you think.
Oh, they're the most important people. Make friends with any production team and your rate of shows will increase so much. Like, I don't care if you're friends with, you know, Problem X or any of these like kind of high profile players or whatever. They're not the ones that are writing the list on who's going to be on commentary.
But however, they could suggest or make a recommendation. There are some things on social media that go a long way.
Sure.
But again, learning things in the past couple of years, I'm just like, right, everyone just wants energy and good vibes. And then when certain, like I said, when certain issues start to crop up, they're just like, why was I not aware of this? It's like, because you're just making sure the stream turns on. That's your job. You're not really looking at anything else. And then when someone tells you, it's like, okay, so we can bring these two people on the job, just don't put them as a pairing, or something may, sparks may fly at this location, if you're not careful. Mm-hmm. But it's very interesting when you find out who's got bad blood. And do you know what? It's not even, I feel it's not even like super malicious. Because I'll tell you this, right? Before we go back to your point, I'll tell you this, right? So 2023, 2017, I will say in my whole time, doing this, 2017 was my worst point. Because.
So you're saying, sorry, 2017.
Right, 2017. So I worked with these guys, and I still work with them to this day. Shout outs to Mark and Richard. Obviously, Mark, Visual Platform.
My
Richard,
guys.
He's a cap cop now. He used to be part of Visual Platform, but he's a cap cop. So I was working with them for a long time, and when they were developing and growing in this industry, I was working with them alongside them. Mm-hmm. So they basically said, it's like, right, wherever we go, you come with us, because you've helped us out. I've helped them behind the scenes more than anybody will ever realize. Trust me. Like, they've done a lot for me. I've done a lot for them. But I'd say they've done way more for me but when they needed my help, the majority of the time I've been there to help them out. Mm. That's the part that people won't realize.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example, right? EGX, right? Before you met these guys and were introduced, mm-hmm. like for a few years, I would help them set up the event. So you remember when Richard says, I need you for build day?
Yeah. You were on build day, yeah?
Right. So I would build, set up,
in your high
plug in
visibility
cables,
and stuff.
Yeah. And then do you know what I have to do while doing that?
What?
Prepare for the event, to do the event, commentate the 2 days or however days.
Yeah.
And then I have to pack down.
And you'd build. Oh, man.
Right. So people didn't even know I was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They just see you at an event commentating and then skedaddling. And I was just like, but I've probably done more things that you won't even realize I've done. So 2017, Mark messaged me and said, I've got a job for you. And this was like pretty big at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when it got announced that I was going to this event, I got an email about why I shouldn't do big events. I literally got an email about why I should not do big events.
Why you shouldn't do big events?
Yeah, why I shouldn't do big events. Because this was, at the time, to give you more context, it was UFA in 2017.
Okay.
And it was a premiere event in Street Fighter. So when it got announced I was going, like, there was just word going round. And then I went to this local event, not local event, it's this event in Colchester. So it's, I think it's like an hour from King's Cross or something like that, on train or something like that. So I got this email from Richard, because the person sent it to Richard to send to me. This was on my birthday.
Jesus.
They sent me this email, and it goes, I'll see if I can partially find it.
Out of curiosity, did this email come from somebody in the industry? Like,
Yes.
Oh.
I'm not gonna mention who it is.
No, of course. But I'm thinking, like, that's just some idiot that thinks he has a better idea than you do about. Like, they're dissuading you from doing big events.
Yeah, right. Here we go. Let me see. I asked some top players in our community, as well as some international players who I know watch our weekly show and larger events, for constructive opinions about Jammerz relating to working on big scale events. This is all anonymous and has been passed on in confidence that it can be used to improve on his shortcomings while doubling down on his strengths to become an asset for the broadcast team. This got sent to me
on your birthday,
right?
Jesus.
Yeah, but they didn't know it was my birthday.
Right.
So this got sent to me, and this is people that you talk to in the scene,
mm-hmm.
and this is why I find people in this scene a bit weird, because they've been around me in person for only you to express this via email, and you had to send it to a third party to then send to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm reading this, and it's just like, I'm just like, damn, these are the same people who you supposedly are going to work with or do work with. So, but they just put it in an email, and the fact that they said it's all anonymous. So I don't, because what am I going to do if I find out who it is? What are you really going to do?
Throw hands. What do you mean, no UFA? Boom.
So it was very interesting, and the thing is, it's like, some people you look up to, or some people that people look up to in this scene today, I could probably say one or two things about them, and you'll never look at them the same way.
Damn.
So I don't want to tarnish anybody's image, because people, at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. People have actually worked pretty hard to get where they are, whether hook or by crook. But some people, they will go the extra mile to stab you in the back, and not necessarily stab you in the back, but just make sure you're out of the picture. Because there's been times, and I've heard this from people in the community. It's like, yeah, you have been blocked from said jobs.
Jesus.
Because this person isn't fond of you, or that isn't happening. And I was like, damn. I said, you really have to be a certain kind of person or a certain kind of way to do this sort of thing.
Yeah,
because
it's just spiteful. It's.
But then this is where it got really interesting, because you look at this and it's like, right, this is feedback, but in the way that they know best. But then over time, because some of the things that were mentioned here, I kind of noted them down myself. Because I'm like, this doesn't quite sound right. I'm not really explaining this properly. And then these guys just put it in a format that felt, oh, Jammerz can't really be malicious towards us because he doesn't know it's me typing it. And I'm just like, so that's why I can be very skeptical with certain people these days. Because it's not just these days, for a little while, because it's just like, you're the same person that did this. Because and I'll tell you this with confidence. Some of the people involved in this email now, they're just like, yeah, because when they used to say, Jammerz doesn't know the game, doesn't know this, do you know who they look to when they don't know something? They look to me. So I'm like, so I kind of look and I was like, so what was the point in all of this then?
Yeah, and you know what? Definitely they tell their friends. I one time sent Jammerz an email, like, you know, very anonymous or whatever, but he changed, and I'm the reason that Jammerz is like that now. That's what they tell their friends. And that's the kicker, dude. Like, genuinely. So this back to what I was talking about that show I got turned down for because I didn't know the game. We're now in talks. I have been in touch with this company for the last couple of years. They actually can't afford me anymore. And I am not a big spiteful kind of guy, but fuck, I am delighted. I am so fucking happy because I'm just like, fuck you guys. Like, you know, when I was a kid and I had nothing in this industry except for my screamy, stupid head, like, or whatever. Like, you know, you said I didn't know enough about the game. Now, you know, World Tour Finals.
You know what? It really comes full circle, because you are not coming in this to be malicious.
No.
Obviously, you're injecting your own opinion. All right, so look, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. That's fine. But obviously, there are ways that you can go about doing things and articulating yourself and representing yourself that can sway more people's opinion in your favor, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when I experienced this and seen this with other people, I'm just like, I'm hoping no one else has got an email about why they shouldn't do events, like, because I hope I'm the first and last person that ever happens to, because that just says to me, and I learned this at a young age, there's certain things where it's like, right, Sam, if I go and tell you about another commentator, and I just start saying, what does that say? It says more about me than the commentator.
Sure.
Because it's like, wait, hang on, you're coming to me to, whether it's good or bad things, you're talking to me about someone else, unbeknownst to them, to then sway my opinion on said thing.
Sure.
And it's like, this is just me, because if someone came to me and badmouthed somebody else, and I'm just like, okay, I can take what you say with a grain of salt, but that says more about you, because this isn't the first time you've done it, and it's not going to be the last. Because how do I know? I can treat this like a real Among Us game. How do I know that you're not doing the exact same thing about me to somebody else?
Exactly. Yeah.
And the thing is, a lot of things in this line of work, it's based on money. It really is. Because if there was no money involved, I can almost guarantee you, people wouldn't have half as much of the problem as they did now.
Yeah, I mean, of course, dude. Like, this is the whole Tekken Illuminati debate. Like, that there's like a secret society in the Tekken community of the only reason that the guys stay in the top are because they're in the Illuminati and that sort of stuff. If there was no money in Tekken, if people were getting, you know, 50 quid a show, that wouldn't be a thing. Like, you know, that wouldn't, people would be like, oh, I might try that, you know?
Well, look, it's interesting because like even people go, oh yeah, Jammerz, you're part of the Street Fighter Illuminati. I said, do you know how hard it is to get to? I said, do you know how hard it is to get a seat at the table? It's like, what? It's like, and you know what? I think over time, you will. Someone once told me, the higher up you get in a chain, wherever it is, the less people are gonna like you, the less friends you're gonna have. And he was telling me that out of experience. The other thing as well is you kind of roll with the punches. You'll get this. People have these weird perceptions on you. Now, I'll tell you this, right? Let me break you down. Let me break something down for you, right? This is in the same year I got this email, by the way.
Oh, damn.
So
that was a bad year. You were saying 2017 was bad.
No. It was my. I didn't show it, but it was it. Looking back on it, it's like, whoa, this year was actually trash. Because I remember once my university lecturer, like, I didn't listen to her at the time I was in uni, but she said this right at the start when we first day. I'll never forget it. She goes, "You are gonna hate me for the next 3 years, but when you leave here, I will be your best friend." And she pointed out the window. Because she goes, out there, like it's dog eat dog. Like no one's gonna help you. And we kind of took it on like with a grain of salt. And as soon as we left, like, well, she was fucking right. It's like these people are out for blood. But right, so in 2017, because I articulate myself in a certain way, I have an extensive vocabulary, certain things like that. There was this assumption going around that I had a degree. I got a degree in English from Oxford University, one of the most prestigious universities in the UK. Mm-hmm. I was in my mid-30s.
Okay.
And I was like 21, 22 at the time.
Okay.
People said, oh, because of how eloquent he is when speaking, he must have a 60 or something grand job. So I saw him driving a Tesla out on the road the other day. You hear all these assumptions about you. And it's like, who is saying this shit? And it's like, okay, we'll just roll with the punches. Then another guy goes, oh yeah, I heard Jammerz has got 2 kids. Because, and this is what's fucked, right? There was one time, this is an event near my house. I was literally looking after my friend's kids. Mm-hmm. She has 2 of them. And I was like, so you've just gone and you've just rolled with the punches. Here we go.
That's that Twitter shit, man. That's.
And I'm just like, whatever. I was like, do you know what? I didn't even deny it. I said, you can think whatever you, because at the end of the day, I can't stop what's going on here in your mind. If you want to think something of me that goes on in your mind, then whatever, because I'll just go, I could do, or I don't. And then when people, and then I tell you what the worst thing is, right? Because there would be times, you've probably had this in life. This is a life thing. Mm-hmm. We were having a conversation. I did get a drink, by the way. I've got Curiosity Cola.
Damn, man, dude. Yeah, I literally just threw my bottle away. Hold on.
Don't worry. I've got. I don't drink alcohol, anyone, but I do have something. So Sam,
Sláinte, cheers. I am drinking some Sauvignon Blanc, like because as I said to you before broadcast, I said wine seems to be the least drinky drink, if you get me.
Right. So there was this thing where I was sitting down with someone who wasn't fond of me before, but they heard it through someone else all the time. They heard it through someone else all the time. And then they sat down with me and goes, you know what? You're not so bad. Oh. And I was like,
straight up, fuck you.
I said,
whoever that.
I was like, gee. I said, okay. I said, this is the first time we're talking, but okay. Because the thing is, some people did not know that I knew that they were bad mouthing me behind my back. They
right. Yeah.
So and then this is one thing. It grinds my gears all the time. If you have a problem with said person, eventually you're gonna have to bring it up with them. Mm-hmm. You can't keep beating around the bush. You can't keep doing that.
This world is tiny. Like the fact that I've met you at events more than I've met Spag. That's how small this world is. Like, you know, like I work in the same game as Spag and I've met you at more events than I have met Spag. Like, you know, that's how small this universe is, like, you know.
So I get that a lot of people don't like confrontation, but Jesus Christ, do you know what it is? I have more respect for people saying, do you know what, Jammerz, I don't fuck with you like that. And I'll be like, great.
Totally.
Because it's like, great. Because now I would say, I don't like you either, but I can respect you. Because now, if we do have a block together, or we have to do some form of, I'll be like, yo, I've got respect for this guy because this man has told me what's up.
Yeah.
He hasn't gone around the bush. He hasn't been like, oh, yeah, everything's fine, and I'm not gonna make eye contact.
Yeah.
And, let's just great. And it's like, so what's the problem? Because remember, if what I don't know won't hurt me. But then if you keep coming on broadcast, and this is what makes shows look bad. This is what makes some broadcasts look bad. Two guys have bad blood. Remember what I said? Two individuals, not a team. Two individuals. They have bad blood, and one guy will not bring up the problem in some capacity to the other guy.
Even if it's just a fucking thing of having a chat 10 minutes before a podcast being like, hey, bro, listen, do you know that thing you do in that situation? I was only looking at a YouTube video and I saw this thing. Chill out on that just while we're doing this shit together, and like it's going to be way better.
Right.
That
even that. Oh God, please.
I'm just saying, like, but like, just at that level of, I appreciate you for where you are right now, but you're not perfect, and this I've noticed is the problem here. Can we try work on that together as a team, as a unit, like, or whatever, you know?
Something. That's all it is. And you know what? I'll say something that's crazy, right? Because I feel I have definitely improved over the years. Because if I show you my first YouTube video, oh my God, everyone will have a laugh. When someone goes, I can't commentate, I show them my first YouTube video. I said, listen, go and have a laugh. If you're having a shit day, go and watch this. Now, I remember one person, he came in and said, oh, you speak too fast. You don't let your co-commentator speak. But then he'd always go like this. And I'm not really fond of people who do this. They just go, oh yeah, I don't like when said person does this, and they look directly at you and they're like, oh, sorry. And it's like, why don't you just say it as a general thing? Don't just say the thing and then say, oh, I don't mean to offend you. I wasn't going to be offended regardless. Because you've said this to someone and it feels they've got offended, but you just point it at me. So I'm going to assume that you've been talking about me and you think we're going to get upset. I'm only upset that you brought it up. So then I seen this person last year at some point, and this was like a 5-6 year gap from this comment, right? And they done the exact same thing. It's something different. They just go, oh, I'm not fond of when commentators say this, and they go, sorry, Jammerz. I was like, you've done the exact same thing. I said, so you're just gonna ignore anything that I've done that's right, but you've gone and done it's something different, but you've done the exact same. And I was like, you know what? That's when I went.
Yeah.
That's because I'm just not gonna listen to you anymore. And I've been saying this to a lot of commentators recently because, like, commentators are people as well. There's a lot of sensitive topics that go around on social media, and there's times where I've seen it. Pro players or other commentators will go, commentators shouldn't do this, but they kind of say it generally when they're specifically talking about someone. And C4 brings this up like all the time. I can see why he gets pissed about this. Because players will say, I don't like when commentators do this. And he goes, do you have an example? Or you're talking about someone specifically. So sure, you can tweet them. Ooh. So they can fix this problem that you have. And then we can like move on from this.
I like that.
And they never tweet the person. And C4 gets pissed every time. And then I actually saw it happen recently. And I was like, I see. Because someone said, I don't like it when commentators don't understand the player psychology. Ugh. And then people mentioned my name. I was like, oh, I've got 20 notifications. Is today the day I get cancelled? I was just like, is today the day? Trust me, there's sometimes you go on social media and you get a shit ton of notifications. You're like, is today the day? Is that it?
And you're like, uh-oh.
Right. And what it was basically a player was asking, or he's saying, I don't like it. I'm not really fond of players or commentators that don't particularly understand the player psychology in XY scenario. People said, oh, but this is why I like Jammerz, because he plays the game. He's a top player. Don't know where they got that from. He's a top player, and he can predict what happens next. I said, yeah, because I just play the game. I'm a games player. I'm not necessarily playing I just play games. That's it. And then it came up in a particular scenario. They said, oh, someone goes, so what event were you talking about? Didn't answer him. Then someone else said, so who are you talking about? Didn't answer him. Yeah. And I was like, hold on. When you piece the dots together, he was only talking about a specific event at a specific time and there were only 2 commentators involved. So you're talking about one of them, but you're not tagging him. And then I was like, right, I see why C4 gets pissed, because it's like that was the proof's in the pudding. It's right there, and you don't want to tag them to kind of sort out this problem, because like I said, there's so many things, not just in commentary but in the world, where they're like, yeah, let's do this to improve. But it's like, just mention the guy's name. You don't even have to be like completely candid about it. You can be at a more diplomatic sense. You can come at them and say, look, you mentioned this here at 1 hour, 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Don't quite agree with it. Here's what I was thinking. Just note it down for next time. You can do that privately. Totally. It doesn't have to be publicly.
Totally.
Right? And it's like, people don't do that in their nature. I just don't think they have it in their nature. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, no. First of all, you're right. 100%. People have these issues, and the problem is now with, like, people have 10,000 followers on Twitter. They have 10,000 people that are only...
Well, we don't, but...
I mean, we don't. Like, we're not top players, like, you know, but like, these guys have, like, you know, that if they say anything, like, even something so stupid of, this character is broken and needs to be buffed or whatever, like, you know, or nerfed, like, you know, like, then you have this army of people that say, oh, no, that character needs to be nerfed. And you're like, what? Why? Oh, because this guy said it. And you're like, I mean... He's not an authority on balancing. Like, you know, he's really good at the game, but I understand he probably has a deeper insight and that sort of shit. But, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, when I get put into those situations of, oh, this guy probably should do a thing a little bit better, it's always much easier to just privately DM, being like, hey, bro, do you've 10 minutes just to sit and chat? I'm after hearing a couple of things and I just want to let you know what's going on, right?
Like, do you know what? There's two people in this scene that did that with me. One of them, I always shout him out, was Shoryu Sengan. Shouts to Sengan.
Mm-hmm.
One day, he said, yo, you got a minute? And I said, yeah, sure. Sent me 2 7 to 8 minute voice notes, so a total of 16 minutes. And he said, you do this well, but here's where the problem is and here's what I've heard. And I was like, you know what? I said, thank you. I said, that's it. I don't know what was so hard about that. But it's like, because I don't know what people think of other people in their mind. If you think I'm going to pull out a double barrel from underneath my jumper, it's like, I don't know what's wrong with you, because at the end of the day, I don't, like you said, are you trying to deter people from going away, but then you'll publicly say we need more members in the FGC?
Yeah. Dude, you're hitting all of my trigger points. I'm about to explode.
No, trust me. This is why I at one point I said I'm just going to do things for me, because I'm not going anywhere, first of all, because I like doing this. I want to improve at doing this and continue doing it. But it's like, how you want me, if that was your, what's the word, introduction, indictment, I can't remember what the word is. If that's your way of welcoming people in, well, you need to find someone with a weaker backbone. Like, now, because
so true.
Because it's the FGC is all about earn your stripes. It is.
Yeah.
Now,
the arcade culture. Yep.
Times have changed, so there's easier ways into these sort of things, and there's harder ways in other areas. But it's like the earn your stripes part will always be there, and it's interesting because when this player was talking about, you know, the issue he had with commentators and player psychology, because you shadow tweeted it, everyone's gonna think, every commentator is gonna look at that and think, is he talking about me? And then do you know what happens? You've created a commentary meta for the next 3 weeks. The next 3 weeks, the next 3 events. Because you know what commentators are going to do? They're going to go really into player psychology and they're going to mainly forget everything else, because one prolific head has said, here's an issue.
Yep.
And you didn't specifically say who it was.
Dude.
So everyone's going to think, is he talking about me?
When I got into this and like started getting bigger shows, right, I always had this thing of talking about mentality and body language in game or whatever, and I would blanket say stuff. Oh, he's angry. You know he's angry now. He hates that guy. Look at the way he's playing, right? Now, I have zero idea if that guy's angry or what's actually, like what you're saying, player psychology. I think a show is more important than what this individual is feeling at that, right? So to break it down for anybody who doesn't
talk to me. I've got an
Like,
argument to that, but talk to me.
players are also human. They have bad days and they have good days. If their flight sucked, they're probably going to play worse. Like, if they have been up since 7 a.m., their pools games aren't going to be great. So when everybody sees the god of Street Fighter or Call of Duty or FIFA or whatever loses round one to some no-name, there's probably a reason behind it or whatever. Like, you know, I doubt that this kid is about to be better than this guy, but, you know, I'm about to turn that into a story. Like, I don't care who the kid is or who the top player is. That's now my narrative. I have a 4-hour block of commentary to fill. I am talking about my top player that got put down into losers bracket right at the start of the broadcast by some dude, and we're now following him. And I am about to break down his psychology. I've never met this guy. I don't know his name. I don't know where he's from. I don't know his parents. I'm saying, okay, so the reason now why he's doing this is because of he is super angry. He's looked for his opportunity to get on this stage, and he's here right now. This is make or break. Fucking, these words don't mean anything. They are just for the random person watching going, Jesus, it is fucking make or break time now for him.
Well, the make or break part is true. The thing is, and I learned this through various people. People, despite who it is, people always want to know why. You shouldn't necessarily, quote unquote, fabricate a story.
I 100% do. I 100% do.
You can basically, because the thing is, a player, right? You're on commentary and you will go, right, this guy looks angry, but someone watching that will go, well, why is he angry? Like, there must be that, even if you don't know the reason. There could be certain things, like if I spoke to the player prior, or okay, I'll give you an example. I remember a player lost his, at one event, player lost his room key.
Ooh.
And I had to let him back in, right? This was way before, because shout outs to Joker, by the way, from the Tekken scene. In Vegas last year, I was locked out of the hotel, but he let me back in. But like a couple of years ago, I saw that happen to a player. And this was like before his pool was starting. I had to let him back in, and he was a bit flustered because he couldn't get in, and he's going to be late. And it's like, right. And then I had to commentate one of his matches later on in the day, and I was like, oh, like he's not feeling too hot right now. And my co-commentator goes, why? And it's like, because he's locked out of his hotel room. So I had to let him in. We had to get him a spare key, so on and so forth. And that plays a factor, because you can't necessarily just say he's angry with no context, because
fair.
Here's the thing, right? If you're going to make statements, always be ready to explain why. And this is why, this is full circle, going back to me being analytical. If I'm going to make a claim, I'm going to say why I think it happened. It's my perspective. I could be wrong. I could say, yeah, you know what? He did pi 3.142 squared X, Y, Z. Or the guy could just be pissed. Like,
fair.
That's it. But then there's other times where you really... Because a lot of people do not like false information being spread or misinformation being spread. So
I just want to stop you there. I don't care about frame data. I have been wrong about frame data so many times that like
you can improve on frame data.
Actually minus 13. And you're like, fuck, dude. Like
no. Look, I've done it as well. Listen, I've done it as well. I've sat with people who, because the thing is, if you say... It's weird, because I haven't seen the ripple effect to full force about this. When you say something's -8 and it's -9, that shit sticks with a lot of people, and it gives more fuel for whoever you're working with or whatever. They'll just go, oh well, he's just incorrect all the time, and it's just like, okay, and it's like, right. So if you're incorrect about this, what else are you incorrect about?
But like, realistically speaking, right? Like, you've obviously worked with basically the same production teams that I've worked with, and like, we tend to hang out with the production staff more so than the players. I don't want to put you in a...
I'm a mixture of both.
Okay,
I'm a
right.
mixture of both.
I love hanging out with production. Like, I think those guys are the weird unsung heroes, and I will buy boys
production.
beer.
Let me tell you something about production. Production should never be commentators. I will say that with a bold claim.
I
I
don't
will
thi-
say that
well-
looking dead into your eyes. Production should never be commented.
I would
because-
argue that
No. Listen, you've
Okay.
heard some production members what they say behind closed doors. I said that's why you're not a commentator.
the last event we met each other at, we saw the fruition of the production manager talking shit. I'm not going to mention any names or any events, but Jesus, we saw that, man. That was the funniest shit I think I've ever seen at a show. That is...
Listen, I've seen what was it, right? There was an event we were at, and one of the production members goes, I went back to get a drink because I was on break, and one of the production goes, "You're Jammerz." I said, "What?" They looked at the camera and they said, "Doesn't that guy look like a serial killer to you?" And I was like, "There's a reason why you're sitting here." Like there's some people. This goes back to your point before, where it's some people at home it looks easy, and it's like right because here's the thing, right? This is why I always implore people to expand on their vocabulary. When you go on the mic, it's not what you can say, it's what you can't say. Don't think of it as what you can say. Think about what you can't say. You can't swear.
Sure.
You can't intentionally badmouth the product.
Sure.
You know, there's certain things and phrases you can't say, and then you feel really limited in what you can say. And that's when you hear the and people repeating themselves.
Yep.
And that's when and again, this only works with a select few. Sound effects on commentary works a select few.
Sound
it doesn't
effects?
work.
What?
It doesn't work with everybody.
You're talking
know
about
when
like...
people No. When people go, hey, and there's a whole right. That only works with select few. It doesn't work with everybody. It really doesn't work with everybody. I'll stand on this. I'll die on this hill.
I'm 100% with you. I fucking hate. Hey. Like, shut up, dudes. Like, there is way more interesting shit to talk about
Yeah,
right
but,
there.
but here's the thing. People at home get behind that. It can make a moment.
Sure.
It can make a memorable moment, but people can get behind that. Some people can't get behind frame data. In that time you do I could have noticed a combo that could have done 5 hit points more of damage than what you saw on the screen.
Sure.
But we're all singing along to Infinite Azure's soundtrack.
Yeah. Blah.
Right. Like there's so many different perspectives and things because look, no broadcast is truly gonna be perfect. There's
Sure.
always something, a commentator, production, someone could have done better. There's always something we'll always miss. Like there's so many different things about this stuff. That's why when people try to offer criticism, it's fine, but it's just like I'd really like you to know all the ins and outs because I've seen people get flack for no reason. And it's just like, they're like, yeah, man, this guy's got no energy. He doesn't do this. He's lifeless. I'm sitting with them and I'm like, you don't even know that this guy lost his keys. He's just had a bad day. Maybe he had stomach pains or something. And then he still wants to come and do his block out of passion for the game. And all you hear is his voice. And you're just like, nah, dead energy. This guy's carrying him. And it's like, and then I remember I did a stream and I can talk about commentary, but I don't bring it up because there's this. How do I explain this? Right, I'll give you the example. I'll see if you can keep with my train of thought.
Okay.
So when the commentary topic or whatever comes up, I'll throw a question out there. I'm like, okay, guys, what do you think about let's just say saying the official move names on commentary? I'll just use an example that I do, and then in my chat, I'll get 18 different answers.
Sure.
And then I'll go right. So if you all can't agree on one answer, why am I listening to any of you?
That's so fair.
There's gonna be. Don't get me wrong. There's gonna be one or two very interesting perspectives because listen, every perspective you can throw your 2 cents in there. Whether or not it listens up to me, I always throw out a question, and if I don't even get 5 or 6 of you agreeing on the exact same thing, and I said, so you all can't agree with yourselves before you go and attack the commentators. And I'm just like, this is brilliant. I said,
it is.
You all don't even know what you want. So when you lot are going after commentators and giving them flack, it's like, so if you can't agree amongst yourselves, why should?
Dude, it's the whole thing of like, so like, let's say like Tupac was kind of universally slated as one of the best rappers that has ever been.
And he's a storyteller,
right?
Yeah.
People still shit talk Tupac, like, you know,
Yes.
as like so overrated. The modern guys will smoke Tupac, and like, you're like, y'all don't get like where he came from and like what, but in the exact same way of like, you know, the Mona Lisa and like arguably the best painting or whatever, people said it's overrated, dude. Like, you know, I've seen way better paintings that my little sister does. They're on my fridge, like, you know, and like there is nothing. And so this comes down to like that what we do is creative, and
Yes,
creativity is open to interpretation, and that's kind of the sort of beauty of what we do. We tell stories, like, you know, like that. This is like, obviously it's within the medium of this video game that we play, but like it's a creative outlet, and people interpret that in totally different ways. That when I say, do you know, like what you were talking about, like this guy is angry, I can tell by the way he's posturing. Like, look at the way he's moving forward. You know he's angry there, right? Like, for 90% of people, that's somebody going, holy shit, yeah, he might be right. Like, Christ, he does look angry. Like, you know, for the 10% of people go, no, I know that guy. He's not angry. This guy sucks. Let's tweet at him. Like, you know, fucking Sam doesn't understand Tekken at its root nature, and he's a shithead. Send. Like, you know, like it's just this creative outlook, like, or output, that it is open to interpretation. And I think as people that are kind of on the mic or faces of particular games or whatever, like, that we need to kind of come to terms with that. And I know it's a terrible way to look at it, that haters gonna hate or whatever, like, you know, like, shit talkers they're
everywhere. They're everywhere.
People badmouth Tasty Steve. Like,
Yes,
that's how you know.
And you know what? There's not a bad bone in that guy's body yet. They will. And I was like, look, you know what? You have to understand this. You obviously know, people at home, you have to understand this as well. When you're on social media or you put yourself out there, you're open for the firing range. They're going to come out. You're going to have 12 guys with the SMGs. And they go,
that's it. But they will come out. That's the thing.
No. And you know what? With some, I see, I've learned this over the years, right? With some hateful comments, there's a slight truth in there. There is a slight truth in there. It's going to come out as full-on hating. But you know what? People go like this. You know what? I don't like the sound of his voice, and he does this wrong and he does that. I said, don't like the sound of my voice. All right, cool. We'll take that part. That part I could agree with. Because for me, the main thing I get, and I've become desensitized to over the years, it's hilarious now. When someone goes, man, Jammerz' voice is so friggin' annoying. I said, I know. It's great, isn't it? And I was like, and I tell you what, I said, right, if you can't get me with that one, so next, and if that's your only complaint, I don't see it as a complaint anymore. Because I remember doing the CPT Finals back in Hollywood a couple of weeks ago. One guy goes, I tell people not to look at the comments, only look at them every so often, every couple of months.
I tell them never. No,
you know what?
That's my shit.
It depends on how you want to like take it, because I don't look at chat live. Never look, because that's gonna change your mentality on how you do the job.
Like,
I remember
like mid job.
Someone used to tell me, and I could not believe what I was hearing. They said, I open up the chat, and if the chat like my jokes or whatever, I'm going to continue making jokes. But if they don't like it, I'm going to go back to being serious and, you know, proper. What? And I was like, so you're letting the chat dictate what you do? And I was like, all right, cool. All right. I heard of being whipped, but then there's that. But like, you know, and then now one time I read one of the comments once for the CPT Finals, and someone goes, man, Jammerz' voice is annoying. And then I said, I know it is. And I laughed because I'm like, I'm with you. And then there were about 20 people that attacked this dude.
No.
And then he deleted the comment. I said, look, if you're going to hate, you better be ready for some guy to fire back. Because if you're deleting it after 20 people coming at you, imagine when 20,000 people come at a commentator. And some things get spread like incorrectly. It's because one guy doesn't like the look of you. Remember, one guy doesn't like the sound of your voice. That shit spreads. And there's the thing, right? You could, when it comes to commentary, everything is basically judged. Or sorry, not everything. The majority of things are basically judged by the sound of your voice and what comes out of it. Your appearance, whatever. If you got something like some flamboyant hoodie or some shit, they'll go, "Yo, this guy's got some dope, like drip, dope fashion or something."
Don't you do have some flamboyant hoodies, though? To be fair,
but when you speak, and what comes out of your mouth is different, because the first barrier is how do you sound. Now, if people find my voice is annoying, that's it. They've muted the stream, they've turned it off, they don't care. I could say some of the sickest things about the best players in the world, but because you don't like the sound of my voice, you're never gonna hear it.
Yep.
Now, if they don't mind it, or they can tolerate it, or they like it, then the next part comes out. That's when they really pay attention. They're just like, "Oh, he said what now?" Like, trust me, I've said some stuff on stream that technically I shouldn't say, but because it's not an unwritten rule, but there's no guideline that kind of puts people in check. Like, okay, one unwritten rule that's common sense is don't swear. But then there's other phrases that, let's say from the UK, it's fine to say, but it's not fine to say in the US. And then in the US, we get in trouble.
Really?
Because the US see it differently to us. There might be something that we said in French that some French may take offense to. Right. So I'll give an example, right? So in the UK, there's a saying we say when it comes to finding an opening or a window of opportunity. It's called chink in the armor. Have you heard that one?
Yeah, of course.
Right. So.
No, wait, I'm just thinking.
Now, right. If we say, "Oh, he's found the chink in the armor," some people will take high offense to that, because chink is a derogatory term, a racial slur to Asian people. So they hear chink and they go, "Oh, so you've let a racist on the mark." But we say the whole thing. Oh, trust me, me and someone else, we've said this on like professional broadcasts.
Yeah.
No one pulls us up about it, but people outside, they'll go, "I don't like that you said this." It's like, no, but I've given you the context of how I say it.
But
and
it's the whole context. It's not the word, right?
But people will find,
dude.
People find any excuse to go at you. And this happened, right? This happened with F Word at Street Fighter League, when me and him were doing Street Fighter League. We know, because in the UK, chink in the armor is a thing. It's
yeah.
Right. But then there was this one person that was constantly going at him. It's like, "I don't like that you keep saying this. You'd say it." And people in the chat would go, people in the comments would go, they didn't explain the definition. And they'd go, "You do know he's using it in this sense. He's not just saying the word." And they said, "That's not the point." And it's like, oh my God. It's like,
Jesus Christ, man. Like,
right, and then sometimes, right, trust me, there's a lot more to commentary in certain things than you think. I've said a lot of things. I remember on one show, I said, "Yeah, this guy's about to go balls deep on this thing." Right. But then someone saved me, like, real quick. And I've seen other commentators as well. They've sworn or they said bad stuff, and their co-commentator just leaves them to hang. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, no, trust me. There is some crazy stuff. And the thing is, I just wish there was, like, again, maybe a company or like a TWT, CPT, they put out this formal rules. It's like, okay, commentators, please refrain from saying these things. If you think there's another phrase you feel you shouldn't be said, please add it to the. Do you know what? It'd make it easier, because some people, because of who they are, if they say it, might be slip of the tongue. Like, I remember I was watching back. This is important. Why I tell you to watch back your thing, because sometimes in the moment, games go so fast, you default to saying certain things, especially if you've said them off mic.
It's your vernacular, man. Like,
right now. One time, I go, "Yo, this guy's about to run a train on..." Right. Now, the thing is, right, and now I've said that at CPT Finals. And people are like, "Jammerz, you said what now?"
On a train, let's go, dude.
Right. I've said this at a CPT event. And it's like, people are like, "Wait, you said what now?" And but I heard this when I was, again, like I said to you, play on your speakers. Do something else, because you hear that, it's like, oh, I said that. And it's like, right. So I haven't been told off about it. If I do get told off about it in the future, then it's like the word of warning, slap on the wrist sort of thing.
Sure.
But it's like that stuff, depending on where you are, could get you in serious trouble. Like it could literally get you in serious trouble.
Yeah.
So this is why it would make, because I just defaulted to something because I'm like, yo, this guy is getting beat. But that's the thing that just came to mind at the time.
You see, I think it's the thing of like, once you get to the higher level of commentary, you're kind of confident for your own self to come out. So like when I say vernacular, like it's what I would say to my friends, you know. So shit like that, like run a train on someone, like, you know, like if I'm saying that to my buddy, like, oh dude, I was watching the UFC last night, dude got run a train on, like he knows exactly what I'm talking about, that dude lost and lost bad, like, you know, I don't actually mean it in the sense that, like,
but
you know,
listen, because people can interpret this stuff in 1,000 different ways, so
yeah.
it's better if you don't say it at all. But sometimes you don't even realize what you say on the spot.
Sure.
There's so many different things you're thinking about at the same time.
Almost muscle memory for your voice. Yeah.
Right. Keeping up with the action. Your co-commentator's there, and it's just like
chink in the armor.
Right. And this stuff, like, it sticks with people. And then, well, trust me, we have all made mistakes on commentary. I've sworn on camera. Listen.
You picked your nose on camera. I saw that.
Yes, I have. I've done that. I've done that. I've heard commentators. They have said some wild shit on camera, and they are still here to this day. They've said things worse than me. And if I had to do, or if someone had to do a little bit of digging to find out when certain things were said.
You met Acoustics, right? You know.
Oh yeah.
That man is insane. I have so much respect for
that guy. Yeah, but we need that though.
Fucking A, we do, man. Like, Jesus Christ. That guy says whatever the fuck he feels. Like,
with some moderation. Like, if the thing is with what I like about Acoustics, shouts to Acoustics, and some people do this, right? I remember people used to say this about me. It's, if you understand the intention of what I'm saying, it makes it that much more funnier. Because I'll give an example, right? So if you say random, you have never heard the word random used in a positive light. It's always used in a derogative sense. So when you go, oh, random uppercut, random this, random that,
sure,
you're talking with a negative connotation.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've just replaced that word and just said, oh, okay, hits him with the no context sweep or the arbitrary sweep.
No context. That's
yeah,
so good.
But it's basically, it's the exact same thing. And some people go up to me, it's like, Jammerz, you insult people without them actually realizing you're insulting them. And I'm like, if that's how you're interpreting that I'm insulting them, I'm not insulting them. I'm looking at the gameplay, and people come to me more these days saying it's like, because commentators are still kind of scared to not be themselves. It's have an opposing opinion, and this is something that's happened in the world. Remember, there's a lot of things you can't say no towards or say that shit. There's some things you've seen, whether it's, you know, a piece of clothing, a piece of gameplay. You can't say that's outright shit. You just have to go, you could work on this here and there. And like, no, I'm just like, that was terrible.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'll do. And some people go, you actually do that. I said, why can't I?
It's the disagreement thing, like, and like, so
yeah, the opposing opinion.
This is going to get me fucking close to cancelled, like, or whatever, but like, people are so afraid of confrontation. You kind of touched on that earlier on about, like, you know, people talking shit about, like, you know, like, whatever, like, so where I grew up was very poor, and if you had a problem with someone,
you tell them
straight up. You had to, because if he found out that you had said it to someone else, now it's a fight. Like, you know,
I heard
like,
through the grapevine you were talking shit.
Yo, that person just told me that you were talking shit. Like, so you have to say, hey, bro, I didn't like that shit. You know, you borrowed €10 off me and you never gave it back. That's not cool. Like, you know, you had to approach that in a sort of a thing. But now I'm put in this world where everything has to be super correct and stuff. So I understand
sugar-coated,
on broadcast,
soft-spoken.
but like, if somebody makes a mistake, I used to say that was a mistake. Now I'm not 100% sure if that idea was where he wanted to land that idea. Fucking, dude, the guy fucked up,
but here's the thing. Like, you always have to find a way to explain the same thing in various different ways, right? It's super important. So look, some of the guys I work with, if they see something random, they go, well, he was pretty adventurous there, wasn't he? But you can make a joke out of it. It's funny. But then I do feel like this is just a me thing, and this is why some people, I remember, somebody I can't remember who it was. Somebody said they're working with me for the first time, and they this is the first time they see me off camera, and they said, "You are so different to when you're on camera." They said, "Why don't you bring this on camera?" And I said, "Because I wouldn't be here if I brought this on camera." 100%. You can ask C4. You can probably ask 2 other people. If I was 100% myself, I wouldn't be on the camera. I can say that with almost like 100% certainty, because it's like I can be blunt or tell you about certain things and then probably tell you afterwards what's going on, because it's a case where it's like, right, some people will do something silly and I'll go, well, that was silly, wasn't it? And then, but people will come back to me and goes, oh, you really said like he done something silly? I said, because it was. And then some people are like, oh yeah, you're pretty blunt. And I said, what? But you all are thinking it as well, but none of you say it. So you're just going to let this guy just go on, and you're not even going to say it. You're going to try and put it. Now, yes, being diplomatic and saying certain things with a softer blow is fine. But sometimes I feel you got to be black and white, and you got to be as raw and uncut as
this is the
thing. I'm
I'm
not being like totally barbaric about it. I'm not saying it was freaking awful.
That guy has no idea what he's doing.
some people, this is why hypocrisy lurks on everybody's shoulder, right? Some people who've told me off for saying, oh, you're being pretty harsh on the players, but I've heard them call players idiots. And I'm just like, and I'm like, hang on, wait, you're telling me to not, and then you. Yeah. And you know what? I like to sit and observe a lot of things. That's it. My mum taught me this from a young age. She says sometimes you just gotta stand there or sit there and just listen, because you know what's gonna happen. They're gonna slip up. They're gonna say something, and your ears are just gonna go, what? And look, people, it's interesting. And then some people go, I like how you do this with confidence. And it's like I feel as if I'm a confident guy.
Sure.
So if I'm even if I'm wrong, if I'm confident in a statement or confident that was I call a bad play, I'll call it out. Now, the thing is, over time, this was interesting. Over time, when I got better at playing Street Fighter 5, when I called something that was not so smart, I kind of had this validation, because it's like, oh, he's a good player. So because he's a good player, I can call it bad. And I said, wait, so you're making excuses for me? And I was like, wait. So when do people... This is why I feel commentators are in an interesting but dangerous position. People sometimes you'll get people that go, yeah, my favorite commentator is X said person. I'm like, so what did he say? Oh, I just like it when he gets hype and does this stuff. So you don't actually listen to what they say then, do you? And then you get people who are hyper focused on what you say.
Yep.
They bring up what you said, they bring up the timestamps. I'm like, whoa, you listened.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. So then you find this situation where it's like, when you do, because anything you say can and will be used against you.
It's so true. But I think I have just an endless, like, fucking truckload of bollocks that I've talked on air. Like, do you know, like what I'm saying about, like, that dude is angry, that guy, like, sucks. I don't think that matchup is like, now, obviously, I will give evidence to where I'm thinking, like, or like where my brain is at, but my emotions kind of lead where I'm talking to. And people can, and they have fucking brought up, hey, do you remember when you said that character sucks against this character? And I'm like, genuinely, I don't. There is hundreds and literally hundreds of hours of me talking, like, on the internet. No, I don't remember that one time, but tell me about it, like, you know. And they say, oh, well, actually, this character has that against this character, and I'm like, that's great. I didn't know that at the time. Like, I know it now.
No, that's
like,
really good.
You
that's
know?
really good.
Like, but fucking just like I. Back to the initial point. Sorry, I'm getting muddled up. We're storytellers. We're storytellers more so than we're designed to break down really intricate plays. Like,
well, do you know what? No, okay, that part I have to stop you there, because the problem is, I've spoken to Spag about this and other people. The FGC for so long, they've encapsulated like 5 roles. They're doing it like it's a standard job, right? It's like, okay, we're going to pay you 20 grand a year for a 5-man job. That's what they're doing. So you got to be host, ad reader, commentator, and analyst, right? You got to do that all in one. But there's 2 of you that got to do it. And we give you this rate, right? Now, a commentator is a storyteller. An analyst breaks down the play.
Yeah.
Now, you're coming from the angle. It's like, right, I'm doing this. This is where I feel my forte is. This is what I want to do. I will sell the narrative.
Sure.
But the thing is, because there's still a lot of events that do this, because they're still getting the 2 people on the stream to do all of those roles, you'll pick that part. Because I just feel I'm an analyst, just going, oh yeah, that's plus, that's minus. Oh yeah, he could have done this. That does 300 damage. He missed out a bit of damage. That's not, to me, that's not commentating. That's just an analyst going, yeah, great. You missed out on some damage.
You could be writing that shit down. Like,
I know, I do. I legit do. No, sometimes I alley-oop myself on commentary.
Let's go, dude.
No, so what I do, I've said this to people. So this is something I tell you what, right? There are so many things you can do with commentary that people don't even realize, right? So one thing I do, I'll commentate. And if I say, I don't know, I generally don't know this. Okay. Cool. I'll say that on the spot. I'll probably look at the event, but then what I'll do 2 or 3 weeks later when I'm looking back at the VODs, I'll listen to it and I go, I don't know. Turn my head. All right, what did I say I don't know to? And it's like, okay, there's this situation. Let's look how the player's done it. And then let's open up training mode and let's replicate. And I go, I looked at this when I got home, set this up. So every time I say I don't know, I'm saying I don't know to something different. I'm not saying I don't know to the same thing, because some people on the commentary, they keep saying I don't know to the same thing, and I'm like, so what are you really doing then? You're talking about people improving, but you're saying I don't know to the same thing. Now, another thing as well is people. You can do a very interesting warm up, I should say. If there's something that you really want to say. Right. You can do commentary on the go. I call it commentary on the go, right? You can do this thing where it's literally right here. It's my phone, or one of them anyway. And
the burner phone.
There is a voice recorder on there. You could have a thought on the plane, and you go, you know what? I think Noctis is amazing at Tekken. But then you don't know how to express that. Quickly voice record it on your phone, play it back, see how you sound in your own ear. And it's like, that doesn't quite sound right. And then I'll tell you something else as well, right? Because Sajam is probably the best at doing this. It's explaining things in a very concise manner. That's why I think phone recordings for commentary is really good, because you can see what you said in the length of time and feel if you need to extend it or shorten it. And this is something I figured out recently, and I'm so pissed I didn't figure this out before. Let me ask you this, right? You've done an online event, right?
Yes.
Did they ever give you the run of show?
No. Yeah. The big shows. So like
right, the run of show, and they give you the timetable about what to do and how long it is.
Yeah.
Right. I looked at one of them the other day and I said, hang on. You got to open up and talk about the players in the span of a minute. So what I do is I use a run of show and their time allocations to see if I can fit what I want to say within that minute. And if I have to expand
you rehearse it, yeah.
No, I guess you could say it's rehearsing it, but I'm like, there's like people kind of do rehearse, like they're kind of on and off very liberal with it. There's kind of like a strict regime with it now, because runner shows, they can help you. Dude, I just kept one and just said, right,
8-minute intro.
Yeah. No, because if they go roughly about 8 minutes, that means you've got 8 minutes to talk about whatever it is you want or bring up these points. And even if your co-commentator doesn't know, they'll just see the time and you go, right, in this time, I will mention these points, even if we go on a tangent. And there's even that. There's really experiment, because I remember at one point, because I kept saying I don't know to a lot of things so much it got very annoying for me. So I just went out and just practiced tons of characters, tons of matchup scenarios, this, that, and the third. And then when I work with people, I see this happen a fair bit, and this is where it gets very interesting, because if one person brings up constructive criticism or a negative comment, other people feel that's their gateway into saying, yeah, I agree, or something. It's like, so why didn't you bring this up before? There's some people where they'll go, yeah, you used to do this a lot. And I'll go, so when did you tell me that? I said, oh, no, I told you. I said, no, I remember my life better than you do. Like, you've never told me that. And if you have, it must be in your head, in your dreams. You never told me that in person. But you feel confident in saying that now. But there will be times where you really have to break certain things down. And some people would go, oh, Jammerz goes on like he's a Mr. Know-it-all, he knows everything. I said, because I kind of study the game.
Absolutely. Like, this is our love. Like, you know, like, and like, what would you rather be doing? Would you go to a concert or go to a Street Fighter event where the best players are playing each other? Like, we're all in that boat, that we're fans, like absolute fans of the game. Like, you know, and we love that sort of stuff. So when somebody says, he's a know-it-all, man, you know, like, it's probably because you do know it. Like, maybe not all.
No, I can't know everything, but here's the thing. So you'll hear a lot of people, and this is 100% true. They'll go, I'm not fond of people that speak in absolutes. And then you come across as wrong. And it's like, yes, that is true. But then if we both don't know, don't you think it's up to one of us to kind of figure out what it is? and it's like, sure. Okay. But then there's this thing where, all right, okay, this is going to sound arrogant, because there are some players where in Street Fighter that I know their character better than them. But I don't play their character. So I have to go, I'm not sure about this. I don't know about this. And it's like, but I kind of do know, because I've rinsed the scenario. I've watched you play long enough. I've practiced it myself. But I still have to, sometimes I still have to hold back because I don't play your character. Yeah. And then I'm just like, if I do say, oh, wait, I know this better than this, they're just going to be like, oh, so he's just missing out, or he does this. And it's like, yeah. So what? So I'm like, what? You don't want mans to just study the game and understand it? Because it's wild to me that like I said, I do understand. Like, listen, there are some people who don't play. Okay, I'll give you the best example.
I love this.
Right.
I love this.
People still come to me for Rainbow Mika gameplay when I stopped playing that character in 2019. My information is outdated, but because I've played the character, they're like, oh, you know the matchup. And I was like, you are absolutely kidding me. And I was like, that's how you guys go on. And I was like, I know more about another character I don't play than the character you know me for the first 3 years of the game's lifespan. That's that. And then, but people rock with that. And I get it to a degree that is true, because it's like, right, this way it comes back to player psychology, right? If you play this character, I know it better than you do. But in the recent years, I've had a lot more time to play the game than most. I might not be said character or said main of this character, right? Mm-hmm. I still know the basics and one or two other things. Like, hey, I was curious about this situation. I can pose it as a question to you, or I could just tell you the answer that I found. Yeah. And then, I swear, this is how funny it got at one point, right? There was this kind of thing going around. Depending on who you'd ask, there's this thing going around where it's like, people called me the Encyclopedia of Street Fighter 5.
Sure.
I knew the move.
I've heard
that. I know the move names. People, do you know what? This is the funniest thing. Oh my God, we've got our tangents, right? So I don't like these things. Right. So, there was, people call me the Encyclopedia of Street Fighter 5. I know the move names. I'm very good at matchup interactions and stuff like that. So if there's something I don't know, some people would go, if Jammerz don't know, nobody knows. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a compliment or there's just a huge weight on my shoulders now. Yeah. Because I always go, I don't play this matchup, but I've seen it online. And I tell you what, right? I have over 10,000, 11,000 hours accumulated on Street Fighter 5 from PS, from PlayStation and PC. And then people will, this is just me talking now.
Mm-hmm.
People have the audacity to go, and he thinks he's a nerd. I'm like, you're actually kidding me.
Brilliant.
And then there'll be this thing, right? I don't know if you've seen some of my commentary. I will predict the next thing,
dude,
that will happen before it happens.
That got me so much. Like, when I was like, so I don't want to like blow smoke up you or anything, but like, you know, so we've met each other in a lot of like situations, but obviously we're totally separate because we're different games, right? That I was like, do you know, because the twins tell me it's like, check Jammerz' shit out. Like, even if you don't understand the game, just check out. Like, and I hear stuff like, "Oh, V-Trigger is coming," and then your co-commentator goes, "How did you know V-Trigger was just here we go?" Like, you know, and I'm like, what? First of all, I don't know what a V-Trigger is, but the situations leading up to him activating a V-Trigger there, I don't understand, like, first of all, what a V-Trigger is, but then your co-commentator, who's the other like fountain of knowledge here when it comes to this game that you guys are both talking about, he didn't get that before you did. Like, so just for the record, I do understand that you know more about that game and you can see into the future, like, that if the opponent had you in his ear, he probably would have done better in that situation. Like,
right, and that's the length. Sorry, pardon my French. I know I've said it once. That's the length where it gets that's the length where it gets fucked, because it's like, I don't play your character, but why do I know what you are? And do you know what's crazy? I'll tell you something, right? My best friend, he's been my best friend for like over 10 years. I think we're coming on 15 years now. He sent me a video of Punk watching my commentary, and Punk, because I called the action or the next piece of play before it even happened, Punk was convinced that it was pre-recorded. He was convinced that what we were watching, he didn't believe I called it. So he was convinced that, he said, nah, this is pre-recorded. How do you know that was coming out? And I was like, for me, the proof's in the pudding. If you cannot hear, remember what I said? People hear shit. If you cannot hear that I play this game and study this game, I don't know what to tell you. At one point, I was really stumped in my house, right? And I said, how do I get people to listen to me? Because it's like, people listen to their favorite commentators because of what they say or what they do, the energy they give off. And at one point, I felt that I wasn't getting that. How do I do that? And I didn't even forcefully go, I'm going to predict next action. It just it naturally built into something.
Okay.
And then it's kind of this euphoria you get, right? You call the action, you predict something, and it pans out right if you said it, and you feel fucking elated when that, and you're just like, yes. And it's like, right. And then it's kind of this feeling you want to keep doing it. But then, remember, there's this thing where, like I said, people interpret you many different ways, and I roll with the punches. People go, you predict the action. I said, okay, if you're saying that, I guess we got to roll with it now. That's not some people think it's my brand. No, it isn't. Because once Street Fighter 6 comes out, that is not going to happen right off the jump. That is not going to happen right off the jump. That took years to build up, right? And one of my mottos, or one of my like slogans with this whole thing is, whatever you say on the mic, be prepared to explain it. Even if I'm wrong, right? If I try and predict an action and it's wrong, I will explain the other scenario instead. If I go I'm right, and then this is me coming out on the mic, I'll go, I told you he was going to do that. And then I'll go, right, that's me coming out before I give you the analytical perspective.
Yeah.
Now, this is where it got interesting, because people are like, you're predicting what happens next. And I said, so you're listening now? And I was like, that's good. Because now I'm more open to say other things. So you hear a point I make before we go to the point where you are going to call the next action. Because some of the things I've heard, let me see if I can find it, right? Some of the things I heard, because at the finals, someone said, Jammerz is the most accurate predicting what players will do next. They go, he has great game knowledge and matchup interactions. And I only play about 4 characters. There's 45 characters in Street Fighter 5. You do the maths, right? And it's like, I always want to teach people something they didn't know every broadcast I'm on. Because one of my foundations for commentary is, all right, if I'm watching Tekken, tell me something I didn't know.
Wow.
Teach me something. So that's my foundation for when I'm commenting. I'm going to tell you something you didn't know about this game.
Dude,
and you're going to keep piling on. And when I was at the finals for Capcom Cup, there were several people coming. It's like, yo, the way you articulate information, it's like I'm engaged. And it's like, even if I don't play this matchup, you've made me zoom in or like scope out these certain things. And then you kind of build up this thing. You build up a matchup and then you call what's going to happen next as if you're writing the story. And I was like, right, there's more than one way to sell a story.
But that's exactly what I was about to say. I am coming from almost the other side of the spectrum here. I will talk just so little. I might briefly touch on the character matchup, but then I will explain why he picked that character, because I've met that guy and he's very passive in kind of his life, so that's why he plays the character. That's, you know, a very passive play style and stuff, and that's why he's picking that character into and has achieved success on that sort of shit, like, you know. But it's just so interesting how we obviously do the same job, but we come at it from entirely different
angles. Yeah,
like 100%. Like,
but that's the beauty, and that's how teams and things are formed, because it's like, right, another thing you have to remember as well is they'll always tell you when you're working with someone, like, play to their strengths.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
That's fine. Because obviously they always want the hype guy and the analytical guy. That's just kind of what things are formulated into. But it's like, dude, you can have two analytical dudes. They can have a conversation. It's just one of you needs to be a little bit more energetic than the other, but you need to find out who that is. And the person who lacks energy, hopefully your co-commentator covers your weaknesses.
That's it.
That's how do you think fucking like football teams win matches? How do you think basketball teams win matches? If somebody is playing in a position and they're weak at doing something, hopefully their teammate will cover them. Yes, you got to do your job, you got to pull your weight, but somebody's going to cover you. Now, there's been times now, and this is a problem that some people have had with me. I will sit with someone and I'm commentating with them, but to them, I remember I love this. I get my friends to watch what I do so that I get a complete non-FGC perspective.
Sure.
Some of them will call me the Encyclopedia Street Fighter 5, and it's like they said some people might feel intimidated sitting next to you because it's not you they're sitting next to, they're sitting next to the encyclopedia. So if they get it wrong, you're just going to correct them. And Richard's told me about this in my ear a couple of times. He'll go, "Oh, you were just correcting the guy all the time."
Well, if he's wrong.
I was like, "Oh, is that what it sounded like to you?" And it's just like, "Oh, okay." Now, sometimes it's like maybe I've learned too much about the game, but like I said, like I said, I do this stuff for me because when you call me, I don't want to come to a job and wonder why I'm here. When you call me for a job, I know exactly why you've called me here. Whether it's for my energy, whatever it is. But in my heart of hearts, I know, right, they want me to impart my knowledge for the broadcast.
Exactly. Jammerz.
Call out some CTAs, do this, do whatever.
This is obviously it's a big drinking thing, right? So this is a nice bottle of wine that I got given. This is a 2017 bottle of wine, right?
Wow. So that's settled for a little while.
This is an aged bottle of wine now, like, you know.
As he opens that bottle of wine, what was I saying? I was saying about knowledge and people being, when I get hired for a job, I know why I'm there. I don't want to question why I'm there. I'm here for a reason. I think people can, depending on who you ask, people can be intimidated by me. They could, like, "Oh, happy to work with you. I've always wanted to work with you." Some people will sit there in awe, you know. They will sit there and just hear you talk, and they're like, "I'm seeing it in the flesh."
Yeah, but like,
starstruck. That's the word, starstruck.
Yeah, like, I mean, but that's such a weird, like, barrier to overcome. Because I don't know about you, but like that shit for me has never happened in any other medium other than this. That like when I like go to do a set with somebody and you get this sort of, Oh man, Jesus, I don't know about that. Like, that's crazy. What do you think about that? And then you get this. Yeah. Whoa.
Right.
I mean, you heard it. Sam said it there, so it's true now. Like, and you're like, fuck, dude. Like, no. I want to hear you. Like, tell me.
It does happen. You've had it with people. Sometimes you get tongue tied, you get brain farts. And people are just like, I've had it with people. They'll work, not necessarily me, but they'll see it. Hopefully, again, their co-commentator picks you up. When you're having a brain fart, you're trying to finish their sentence for them.
Yeah.
You might have said the wrong thing, but it gives them a thought to then regain their thoughts and then get back on track, sort of thing. And I do feel sometimes I have felt I'm like, okay, maybe the knowledge does scare people, because it's like, because you might turn this into a knowledge-based stream when we want to have energy and like vibes to it or something. I'm like, nah, dude, this is what I do. This is my livelihood. This is my perspective. This is my angle on talking about the game. And it's like, I sometimes it's very, you shouldn't assume or you shouldn't expect certain things, because expectation leads to disappointment. So if you think everybody knows what you know, then it's just like, but then again, I go from this background of where people just said, oh, he just never knew the game. And it just turns around. It's like, okay, now he just knows the game. So it's like, it comes full circle. So, I mean, do you know what? There was at the Cup, this was so random, but I was going to the venue and I opened up my emails. I got this one message because, you get a lot of junk mail and spam mail from random people or whatever.
Sure.
I see this email from a guy called Kenneth Null, and it said, thank you. And I was like, nah, junk mail, slide that into the bin.
Sure.
Then obviously when I went to empty my bin, I see it and it goes, hi, I caught FT10. I saw that and I was like, that's pretty specific for junk mail.
Sure.
So I indulged in it and I opened it up. And this is what the guy said. He goes, hi, I caught a first to 10 in the middle of 2022 and was very impressed with the quality of analysis, commentary, your breadth of SF5 knowledge, and the insane amount of research that you do. The things you catch when commenting on the games is impressive. You routinely set up your co-host to successfully pick up where you left off. Thank you for the insanely high bar you set for hosting SF5 tournaments and gameplay, Kenneth. And I was like, fucking hell. I said, man like Kenneth.
Dude, wait, sent an email, first of all.
Email. Not
a DM. An email, dude.
And do you know what? You would have had to find that on my Twitter account. You would have had to. So he went out of his way to ensure that I see this. So Kenneth, if you see this, one love, homie. That. And you know what? I screenshotted it because I was just like, that hit home right there, because that is insane. You usually get like, sometimes you'll get a multitude of comments, a flood of negative comments or whatever, and this guy actually went out of his way to make sure his thing got seen. So I'm like, I'm gonna screenshot this, put it on the internet, because that's how sometimes people's perspective on how they see you it can help you improve. It's like, right, you might, because people get tunnel vision with this stuff, right? So you might not realize what direction you're heading. Is it the right direction? Because this is so subjective and it's open to any interpretation, as you mentioned before, you might think you've lost course or gone off track. Then you get guys like Kenneth coming through and it's like, this is how I see you doing this. And I was like, that was amazing. So shout outs to Kenneth, because again, my angle in all of this is, again, if I can teach you something new each and every broadcast, no matter how minute it may be, I've done my job.
Fair.
And when people come through and say, you know what, I didn't know this about the matchup, I feel more engaged in this, it's gonna be interesting. And remember, this was near the end of the lifespan of Street Fighter 5, and it's interesting because obviously I've spoken about this with people before, like analytical commentary being sort of like a dying breed, because it's not necessarily you have your color commentators and your play-by-plays, but like really breaking down specifics and everything, it's becoming less and less of a thing. I feel there's people who know the game, but not to a degree where they can really pick things apart and show you every keyframe, every fine detail.
Sure.
And it's like, so, because one person who used to do that and it gets brought up like all the time is Sajam. Sajam did that to a point where people just said, all right, Sajam is the guy to do it. And it's like, other people out there are doing it. They just haven't got a bigger platform as him, or you don't see them in many different places. So then when myself and other people I know do analytical side of things for commentary, when people go, "Oh, no one does it, only Sajan does it," I'm like, so you don't watch enough? Or you're just slapping the rest of us in the face as if we don't do it. And it's like people, like, again, there could be people working harder than me and you right now as we speak. They just don't have a platform to showcase their skills.
Jammerz, man, the thing is I assume that they are. Like, that's the whole thing that gives me this fear of, like, I remember I used to think, like, that fucking Tekken is one bad game away from me not having a job. Like, you know, like, if I can't pay my rent from this, like, you best believe, man, I'm about to be hitting up you, being like, yo, bro, any spot on that Street Fighter thing? I've been playing the game. It's really fun, like, whatever, like, you know, like what we were talking about, like, if there was no money in it earlier on, like, you know, like, would half of the people still be here? Like, I love commentary. I love the idea of that commentary, being a good commentator has nothing to do with being good at the game specifically. Obviously,
they can coexist, but they don't. I think they don't have to completely align. I'm a. This is weird because I use myself as an example because I'm in so many of these situations. Like Mark and Richard always say, you're in a very unique situation. You can commentate, but also play in the tournaments of people you're commentating over.
Sure.
So it's like, yeah, but I'm like, I'm not going to do that now.
Of course.
It's like, trust me, some people want me. They're like, why doesn't this guy compete in tournaments? I said, because you want. This is the conundrum, right? They were like, oh yeah, are you commentating this event? I said, but you're the same person who wants me to play in that event. What do you want me to do? It's just like, I'd rather commentate because that's guaranteed money. We've already spoken about this before.
This is the
guaranteed money over like 1 in a 365 chance of winning the tournament. Okay, I'm decent on the sticks. Like I said, I like playing games, but I like talking about the games as well, and I don't have to stress out when someone hits me with a command grab. I don't really want to.
Dude, but that's the whole thing of, like, even if, like, and you think like a 10 grand tournament is a big tournament, right? So if you think 10 grand prize pool, first place takes home 5 grand, right? Second place, what?
2 grand, 3 grand.
Yeah, like if we get down to like where the competitors take it, like, our money is definitely less than that. Like, for a 10 grand tournament, you're maybe expecting, I don't want to put actual numbers out there, like, and stuff, but, like, we're not making 5 grand for that.
No, man, but, I listen, I seen Sam with a Bugatti the other day. He's lying to all of you. I've literally seen this guy he showed me the papers, he passed his driver's license, he's been saving up for this thing, man. Those Tekken you see him on.
That is on to my next point, but the regular money is what makes the difference, right? That it doesn't matter if I have a shit flight, Ryanair fucked me up and they've stolen my bag, or I had to sit next to some guy who loves elbowing like this, man, like, you know, like, and I get on the far side and I say, all right, now I have my 2 hour block and I do my 2 hour block and then I go home and I get paid for it, right? I don't have to be tournament ready, like, as in, like, in terms of what the players have to go through, like, that they, if they fly in at 6 p.m. the night before and then have to start at 10 a.m., they're probably going to do worse whether if they flew in at 2 p.m. the day before and the tournament starts at 1 p.m. Like, they're probably going to play better in that tournament. Like, you know, like, there's so many factors that go into being a top player, that the regular money just kind of hits much, much nicer. Like, you know, like,
I definitely get where you're coming from. I think, again, there's so many different factors to being a top player. There's so many different factors to being a commentator, let alone top commentator.
Sure.
It's different, but it's like, I think a lot of people would like it if this is so weird, right? Because what sport do you know where to be like a pundit or like a person on the show to analyze the game and be part of the pre-show, where you didn't have to be a player? everyone in sports that I know, they were a player or some form of thing in the game
manager
before
or
they
something. Yeah,
before they retired, before they became a manager, host, something. In FGC, again, because I started out, in this whole thing, I started out commentating before playing, because my whole objective in this, and this is where I think quite a number of people misunderstood it, right? Because you see a camera, you see the game, and you know it's being live streamed. People would say, "Oh, give me this 50 minutes of fame, chat shit on the mic, and then bounce." I was like, "No, I've been watching Street Fighter 4 tournaments for a little while. My friend introduced me. He doesn't play really fighting games anymore, but like he introduced me to this. I used to watch Logan, F Word, and another guy you might not know him, but another guy called Zaid. And
Wait, you're not talking Zaid who now works in production?
yeah, Zaid, that Zaid, yeah." So Zaid used to
Dude, Zaid is the dude. Wait,
right,
Zaid's a top player?
No, Zaid is very good at games, but Zaid used to commentate. He used to commentate. He commentated Red Bull Kumite 1 or 2. He used to commentate Street Fighter 4 tournaments.
Yeah?
I used to watch him. No, right. I used to watch them three, and then when I started getting into this, I was like, what happens when they're not around? Who would be like a viable candidate to comment? That was me jumping into this. I was like, oh, maybe I could like fill in that role. This seems fun. I've spoken on the mic before. So it's like the objective for coming into commentary and your incentive is always super important as well.
Yeah.
But obviously because back then people have to understand, right? The blueprint to commentary is still being forged. Like, there's no definitive blueprint. We're still writing.
Esports commentary, you're talking
well,
about,
yeah,
right?
I guess, yeah, esports commentary, if you want to put it like that.
Because I think, like, football and, like, even
that's done.
golf and that sort of
Yeah. That's done. If I'm talking, like, video game commentary, esports commentary, that's still being done, because, at least for FGC anyway, because there was, when all the OGs started, they had no one to reference. And then as the years went on, there's more and more people to reference, which makes it easier to get into.
Sure.
Which that means, and sometimes some people grow in these things faster than other people did because there's more to reference from. Like, I'll say this right now, right? Because Saint Cola, shouts to Saint Cola.
Dude.
I think this is and I said this to Mike Ross. Shouts to Mike Ross as well. I had a chat with him at Evo. We were watching Grand Blue Fantasy. I think Saint Cola is the fastest growing commentator in the entire FGC.
So this is really weird. I only know Saint Cola as Saint Cola now. The first time I met him, he was flown over to an event. So I haven't seen his progression. Now, in terms of your analytical brain, I 100% believe you, but I have no reference.
Right, here's the thing, right? Saint Cola really propelled or kicked off his career during the pandemic, when the balance of things, the shift changed. So he wanted to get into commentary, I think from 2018, 2019, because he used to do articles for Red Bull. I can't remember, he used to do something else as well. I don't know if he still does them, but he wasn't doing commentary. So to get into commentary, what did you have to do? Online tournaments, he had a camera, he had one of these.
Yes, sir.
All you needed. So at times where people were saying no, he would say yes, make an appearance. He was even doing European tournaments for Street Fighter. And again, he got out there, people loved his energy. And then I think in the span of 5 to 6 months, he got a CPT call.
Damn.
Nobody I know in the span of 5 to 6 months gets a CPT call that early.
Dude, you'd roughly give 2 years. Take 2 years.
Right. 1 or 2 years, right? Depending on who you know and whatever, 1 or 2 years, right? But because of the circumstances and how enthusiastic he was, he got a call pretty quickly. And then in that same year, yes, there was no actual finals, but the substitute finals, he got brought on to do it with Tasty Steve and Vicious.
Damn.
So in the span of a year, he got brought onto a CPT final or somewhat equivalent, where some people couldn't get like a bat, like, you know, they couldn't even throw in their opinion.
Yeah.
Right. Which is interesting. So when I said that, Mike Ross, he sat there, and I'm talking to a guy where Mike Ross has been doing commentary for the entire lifespan of Street Fighter 4, right? Yep. And then Mike said, "You might actually be right." I said, and to this day, if somebody can find me someone who grew or developed faster than he did, I'm all ears. But from what I've seen, that is the fastest growing. That's literally, and I don't even mean any disrespect when I say this, that's the get rich quick scheme working.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I'm like, whoa. And then the thing is, what with Cola's journey, this is where it gets interesting, because so many guys would ask people how to develop in commentary, how to get these opportunities. And sometimes some people would just go ask St. Cola because he's actually done it. Like the rest of us had to wait 1 or 2 years, had to ask someone, really had to go out of their way. And it's like, because of circumstances, he's probably the best person to ask because of the situation. And he's shown you that it can work.
There's so much shit, right? And like, people outside of this circle don't understand that. Like, so when you get into commentary, right? Obviously, like, your particular games, like World Finals. So for you, it was like the Capcom Cup. For me, it was TWT Finals, like, and stuff. But Evo is the thing. It's the Oscars of that sort of stuff, right? I think from very early on, I knew who the guy was to ask about getting on to. Obviously, like, we send in our applications through the thing, but then
I'll ask you about that afterwards. But
the thing is when, and this is a total psychological thing of when you feel you're comfortable enough to approach that person and say,
okay,
hey, I applied for Evo through the thing. I'm just wondering what the story is. Can you, like, I've done this show for you, I've done that show for you, or whatever. And like, I think that there's this, that's why, like, and this is going to sound awfully shitty, but I feel like the Evo alumni commentators have a better grasp of the commentary scene than even people who've done massive European shows, or, like the people that, I'm afraid to get blown up now, but like, if you stay in your own continent, right? So there's different kind of tiers, right? You're great in the UK and Ireland. That's awesome, right? You do a couple of shows, man. Then you need to start pushing into Europe, right? So then you start talking about Europe, and you talk about whatever, any of the big shows, UFA, these sort of shows like that, or whatever. And then you kind of sit in this bubble of, nobody around me can touch me, like, or whatever. I know the guys that can commentate better than me by name, right? Then you start thinking global, which is a weird headspace to get yourself around. Like, you're talking Asia and America, like, then, like, I mean, because basically we have 3 regions in terms of fighting games. You've America, Europe, and Asia. Though, like, everything else kind of comes as a fringe group, like, whatever. But like, where do you value yourself in that hierarchy that you can just go and ask the guy that picks names for Evo? And that's why I think Evo alumni, like, boys like C4, like you, like, like Spag, Steve, all of these guys, I don't know, just have this sort of understanding of commentary that I'm not asking you how do you commentate, because I understand that you're at a level that I'm not going to get to in your specific thing of, like, what we were talking about, like Tupac. Tupac is the best in his field, but some people still hate on him. I am not going to be a Jammerz in Tekken. That's never what I set out to do. That's not my goal, or whatever. But I would hazard that you're not about to be the SamDDing of Street Fighter, like, like,
no, because it again didn't set out to do it, and that's not my intention. It's
exactly.
My perspective is vastly different than yours, and it's just this thing where, again, you got to encapsulate an experience, what you've experienced over time, what you've witnessed, who you've worked with, and it's like, right, my chances of getting into this Evo or this big event next year is probably better than yours, because I know the ins and outs or some intricacies as to how it works up with the next guy.
Yep.
Now, this is where it becomes from what you know to who you know, because I know a lot, but if I don't know many people, where's that going to go? Do you know what I mean? So
100%.
and this is interesting, right? Because I you mentioned like I applied for Evo. Now this is where it gets interesting. I've always wanted to ask people this. Would you prefer if every big event had the application form, or do you think they should still follow their procedure as they do now? They reach out to 4 or 5 people and they go, right, your availability, and they go down the list due to availability, or do you think it should be application form here, but we only pick the top 5? What do you? Because remember, you've applied to Evo. You have applied.
Yep.
You
Absolutely.
you followed procedure. Now you see that with Evo, Combo Breaker, CEO. Right. That's their general rule. Right, you have to apply to get in, because that leaves it to open to everybody. However, at the bottom of the application form, it does say some people will just be handpicked, but the rest of you have a chance if you have a show reel and you state your handle, Discord. So, what do you think? Do you think we should go more down an application route, or do you think we should kind of stick to how we're doing things now?
So if I'm leading a production team, yes, applications. Like, so I know, realistically speaking, the year before, like after, like the day after Evo, and say I'm head of production for Evo, the day after Evo ends, and we get back into a meeting and we talk about next year's Evo, I have a rough idea on all of the games that are on, the top 4 guys that are going to be there for each. Like, you know, even if one drops out, there's 50 guys ready to take his place, right? But if I have an application process and I watch a show reel and it's insane, right? You know, and hey, pro strat, make your show reel as short as possible. Nobody's out to watch your 16 minutes of nobody has the time, dude. Like,
listen, I'm gonna hot him out here because C4 submitted a 7-minute reel.
Have you watched it? Have you watched
it? I watched it because I'm his boy. I watched that, and do you know what I did? I'll tell you what. No, I watched it. But when he sent it to me and a few other people, I looked at the time limit. I said, "You've already fucked up because it's more than 2 minutes." But I watched it because of your boy. But he still got picked. But
that's what I'm saying.
How he got picked, I don't really care. I'm glad that he got on. But there's other people, they might not be lucky. Listen, what you shouldn't do is go, oh yeah, so I was part of this 13-hour broadcast, and if you just skip to timestamp 2:04 and just play it out till 2:23, you get my best work break. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
Like you need to appreciate, and for everybody watching at home that wants to be a commentator, they get, like, just say for Evo, there is maybe hundreds, 200, 250, like, individual applications. And it's somebody's job to go through those. So if you have a 3-minute, even if it's Windows Movie Maker shit with the star fucking wipe or whatever, and it just shows you can commentate this game and you're a personality on camera, you don't get shy when it comes to an ad read, like, send that instead of the Twitch clip of Jammerz mentioning you on a fucking Street Fighter. Don't fucking do that. But I fucking say that, and C4 sends a reel to me with some like, basically, if anybody asked me how do you commentate, I would, like, point to C4 and say, just look at what he does and don't do that. But he's also got picked for Evo, got picked for the biggest shows in Europe. Like, the man is, like, I mean, it goes to show that, like, the medium that we're in, there's not one meta of doing things.
No, right, and that's why it's ever so interesting. I'll tell you what's funny as well, just on the topic of C4. There's so many people, I think, on your podcast and other places, I hear people like, yeah, man, I look up to C4, he's the mentor, and the C4 goes, I just looked at what Jammerz is doing and just said the same thing.
He said that last weekend. We were out last weekend. He said that, dude.
And I'm just there laughing because I'm just like, bro, like, I've known C4 for a very long time. So watching people look up to him is the funniest shit.
Yeah.
But, nah, you know what? There's so many There's so many do's and don'ts. But I know I was just curious about, because there's a lot of these events you want to be a part of, but if there was an application process, you've got an inkling of a chance of getting in.
Sorry, I never answered your question. Basically, yes, I think application process is great for like new talent and people. Like, I think it's the thing of willingness to work. Like, if somebody has put the effort in to make a reel, then it shows that when I tell you to show up at 10 a.m, that's your sound check. Your block is until 4 p.m. But if I see you bright and bushy-tailed, coffee in your hand at 10 a.m, sitting on a microphone, I understand that you're ready now to work.
Right.
Like, you know.
Somebody... Now, listen. Determination actually gets you in a lot more places than you realize. If you just rock up at a building, give them a quick, depending on what it is, give them a quick rundown of what you know, what you're going to bring to the table, and then, you know, maybe like a future forecast of where you think this thing's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
You might get a shoe in the door, right?
They'll definitely remember you.
And they'll remember you, right? And I've seen what did somebody once told me, right? They said, when it comes to just knowing people and everything, he said I've seen more people get jobs through recommendation than blind application.
Of course,
I've seen that. And it's just like, okay, because sometimes it's like with an office job, right? They advertise a new role eternally before it goes out to the public, because that way they might be able to get someone inside to do it. It's the same thing with commentary. It's like they might be able to, like, they'll ask their first choices, and if they can't get on board, they go, oh, do you have any recommendations? Or they'll ask someone else, and it really goes down, like you said, willingness to work, availability is a very big factor, because if you're available, they can rely on you to do X amount of things, whether or not you're knowledgeable or whatever. Just in general, we can rely on you.
Yeah.
But then with availability, that becomes, like you said, willingness to work, and I kind of see it as a time investment, because the thing is that the commentators at the top, it's how long they've been around, their legacy, or how much time they've put into this in general. Like, again, I've been doing this for like 9 years, or coming on 9 years, but there's people that have been doing it for 11 plus years, 14 to 15 years. There's always going to be someone who's got way
How long
more
has James
experience.
Chen been here?
I'd probably say, 2 decades?
Yeah, he's got to be close to that, right? Like,
right. And this is what's interesting, right? Because I said this at the start, right, with keeping half an eye on the new talent, because sometimes they can't get necessarily to the position they want to be. But because I think there's some pretty decent commentators out there.
yeah.
They just need to learn. They need to be given the opportunity to learn the professional side of things, and then I think things will open up for them here and there. Because one thing I've noticed is this is freelancing work, right? When you get invited to, let's say, a world final, or because mainly it's about appearance. If you appeared at a big event, or you featured somewhere with someone, I guarantee you that next year is going to be pretty damn big for you. Because it's like, right, let's say no one watches the TWT, then all of a sudden you get 200,000 people watching the TWT finals, because it's the finals. They see you there, see your block, and again, I always say this to you guys: you don't know who's watching. You could have 10 people watching, but it could be the owner of Nike, it could be, you know, some big some big wigs
head of
at
Intel.
The next big event.
Yeah.
You don't know who's watching, and then because they've seen him in the final, they're like, okay, he can hold himself down at a very big prestigious event. We might have a job for this guy in the future. How does the email start? Hey Sam, I saw you at the TWT finals, and I just wanted to gauge your interest in this idea I had. Proceeds to type the interest. It's like, let me know your availability. Boom. But that's how generally things can get seen, and all because you featured somewhere big. Because when I was doing, trying to think now, when I one of the Capcom Cups I was on, this is interesting. I've got a story for you. One of the Capcom Cups I went on. So I've been to Capcom Cup finals 2018, 2019.
You'd been to them as in you were commentating, or
no, I've been to them.
You've just as an attendee.
But check this out, right? So 2018, the only reason I was at the 2018 finals was because Tasty Steve, the first year I met him, he said, yo, you come to the finals? I said, no, I don't have any money. And he goes, oh, I'll get you
half the
flight money.
No
if you get the other half.
way.
So
straight up, yeah.
Straight. This is what Steve said.
Gentleman, holy shit, dude.
Because Steve, me and Steve, the first time we met was he came to Versus Fighting, and the guys we were working with at the time, they picked him up from the airport, and I had to go to where they lived, and they lived in a very wealthy part of London.
Oh damn!
So I went there. He saw, and I tell you, this how me and Steve kicked it off the first time. He saw me. He goes, "You're fucking tall." And I said, "Well, you're just fucking short." That's what I said. I said, you ever think of that? You're just fucking short. And then me and him hit it off. We shared a hotel room together. We're playing Street Fighter. He's obviously doing Tekken. We learn more about each other. Then we met each other in France that same year, but we didn't have any idea that the other person was going to be in France. And in France, he goes, "Yo, you going to the CPT Finals this year?" Because Americans, God bless
Where
them.
were they on the CPT from?
They were in Vegas. They're
Right.
going to be in Vegas.
Yeah.
So God bless Americans, because they do this thing where if they're going, they assume everybody else is going. And they go, "Yo," he goes, "Yo, you come to the finals?" I said, nah. I said, if I get called, he posed it as a question like this. He said, "Are you going to the finals?" I said, "No." He said, "What if someone was to fly you out to the finals?" And I was like, "Oh, then I'd go." And he goes, "Oh, okay." And then F-Word was going to the SF5 finals that year, and he found good flight deals with British Airways.
Right.
So Steve caught wind of that, and he said, "Yo, there's decent flight deals on British Airways to come to Vegas for the finals. Can you go?" And I said, "Steve, I've got money, but if I buy the ticket, I'll be stranded at the airport. That's it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to get an Uber to the hotel. I don't have a room. And he comes out and says, "What if I give you half the money to fly? Would you get the other half?" And without even blinking, I just said, "Yeah."
Of course, you do. Straight up.
And then fast forwarding this, right? And I'll give you, this is another part of the story, right? So that year, I didn't apply for Evo, and some of the commentators who applied, they said, "Why didn't you apply to Evo?" And I swear to God, this is how I know the universe listens. I said, before I sign up or go to do certain things, I'll picture a very out of this world scenario. So I said, if for some reason at Evo, right, they go, "Right, there seems to be a bit of a hiccup. One of our commentators can't do it. Can you do the top 8 of Street Fighter 5 at this Evo?"
Damn, that's a big hiccup.
Right. No. In my head, I said I can't do that, so I didn't apply. I just said I can't do it. No European has been on I think until last year for Dragon Ball, no European has been on a top 8 for a fighting game at Evo. It's always been Americans.
Wait, but broadcast or in-house?
Broadcast. Okay. So the stream, not in-house. In-house is a bit different, but the broadcast, you always see Americans.
Your boy, top 8.
What?
Top 8 in-house.
Yeah, you got in-house. I done in-house for Street Fighter as well. Brilliant. But I posed myself that question and said, if I can't mentally say I can do that, I'm just not going to apply.
Shit, dude.
And then fast forward to the Capcom Cup Finals in 2018. I go there. I didn't tell anybody.
We're talking
I was
2018
there.
now.
2018, 2018. This is the same year, because this is the same year I met Steve, right? Same year I met Steve. Because this is the same year Steve was posing the question, "What if someone flew you out?"
Okay.
So I went to the finals. I didn't tell anybody who was going. I just took a picture of the logo, and people said, "Oh, what? You're at the finals?" I said, "Yeah." I just didn't tell anybody I was going.
Damn.
And then I was there. A lot of the UK guys were there. Logan was there. Efo was there, and some other people. Now, as you know, the head of production for Tenno, Chris Seg, he was there, and this is the first time I met him. Now we introduced ourselves.
Hey, Jammerz, I'm just wondering what's.
we introduced ourselves. I was asking him some questions about certain things, so it's cool. And I got to meet a lot of the American FGC at the time. And I think it was day 2. Seg walks up to me with F-Word, and this is exactly what he said.
No way are you about to...
He goes, there seems to be a little bit of a mix-up.
No way!
And then, right, there seems to be a little bit of a mix-up on the stream, and we have no one to cover the loser's side of the stream. This wasn't top 8, this is the loser's side of the stream. He said, F-Word's on. Do you want to join him and do some commentary?
Go, dude, let's go!
And I was like, I said this similar scenario to myself 6 months ago. And it panned out. And I did it with him. Of course I did.
And you said, of course, right?
Yeah. I said, yeah, let's do it. But then I was like, wow. Because no one knew I was there. and then no one knew I was going to jump on the mic. So then when I sat down with F Word and introduced, like, hey, we're here at the 2018 finals, I can't remember my intro. My phone did not stop buzzing. They were like, yeah, the Brits have taken over. Like, people were just doing all sorts. And then people messaging me saying, how the fuck did that happen? How did you get on there? When did you go to Vegas? And I was just like, wow, that was crazy. And then that was a new experience for me.
Sure.
And after that, it was just like, yeah, because that was unofficial. I wasn't on the official talent announcement lineup when they announced it.
Right.
And it was just there. And then there was, I got a few more opportunities the next year because they're like, oh yeah, you've been on the CPT Finals.
You did the
and I was
thing.
just like,
yeah.
Yeah, but I was like, the story behind that, building up to that, was just insane. And then 2019 now, somebody asked, do you just want to go? Like, someone flew me out. They said, do you just want to go to the finals?
Damn.
And I said, yeah, sure.
Dude.
And again, I wasn't part of that lineup. So the event happened, but then I still got asked to be on Capcom Fighters to talk. And I was like, so I'm here, but I'm not here on official capacity.
Yeah.
Which is, it's very interesting where your commentary journey can lead to. Trust me. That's why I feel people, when you're doing commentary work, you don't know who's watching, like I said, but you also don't know where it's going to take you, because more people are watching than you realize. And again, you could have 600 followers on social media right now, but I guarantee there's about 10,000 people who know who you are because they've seen you on the big stream.
Damn,
So
I never thought about that. Yeah.
No, trust me. Listen, social media numbers don't always tell you the picture. Why is it, right? Okay. How many followers have you got now? Do you know? Like, off the top of your head?
1,000. I think hitting on 1,000.
Right. Okay. So we'll just say, right, you've got 1,000, but then if you go back and look at the TWT, right, on YouTube or on the Twitch, you've seen that 20, 30,000.
Yeah.
And on the YouTube archives, there's going to be more. And it's like, more people have seen you or heard you in our case than you realize. So it's like, obviously with actual numbers reflecting, it's a bit different because that will help you in certain other avenues in the industry. But more people know about you than you realize, especially when it comes to in-house stuff. You're thinking, right, Sam's got 1,000 followers, but when you walked around, the TWT venue for the finals, how many people?
Fair. Yeah. Shaking hands, signing fight sticks, like taking pictures and shit. Yeah. Like, there's a really funny story, and like, I hate the idea of celebrity. I don't think that
celebrity in general, celebrity in video games.
In general, I don't believe that humans should be tiered. Like, like I like the idea that humans are humans. Like, all of our shit smells weird. Like, like we're not better than other people because because we're in Marvel. Like, Marvel movies. Like, shit, where was this going? I had a point. Fuck.
I mean, do you mean it's like, right, everyone should be treated the same at an event because we're all video game players? Or... So,
totally separate point of what I'm talking about. But, like, no, I don't think everybody should be treated the same at an event, right? If I see Rip and Tasty Steve upset that they didn't get food at an event, I understand. Like,
okay, good point.
I'm not in the position to say whether they should or shouldn't. I don't know what the budget was, who the production manager is, but if they're bitching about it, I'll vouch for them. Like, because I know those guys, like, and they've probably done 100 other events that they understand that if they're saying like, shit dude, where's my lasagna, I'm also like, shit dude, where's Steve's lasagna, dude? Like, get him a fucking lasagna, dude.
Okay. No, that's I definitely get that point.
I don't know, like, obviously, right, so from my starting commentary where I used to watch Steve on YouTube to getting commentary gigs where I'm doing pools and he's doing top 8, and I bump into him randomly in the hall, hey, I'm a big fan of your shit, to doing sets with Steve and then going like out with Steve and actually communicating on a human level. It's the thing of, you put these fucking people up on pedestals. Steve is a human, like, you know, like, and he has human emotions. Like, he gets pissed the same way I get pissed. He gets, you know, and his shit probably smells weird. Like, you know, for all the vulgarity of it, it just,
for all intents and purposes,
like, it slams it home that, like, Steve isn't better than the regular person because he has fucking however many followers on Twitter or that sort of shit. Steve is better at commentary than the majority of people because he's got a fantastic way of like a super quick wit and is able to kind of spin situations so that they sound good to a broadcast. But Steve is not a god. He is a fucking
in some people's eyes.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Perspective is everything.
But in perspective, I think I the point I'm trying to make to slam it home is that Tasty Steve, just an example, and I love Steve. I've chatted to Steve a lot of times. Steve is a great guy, but he is
and he's
not
shit at Street Fighter.
Damn,
I'll say that.
Damn, Jammerz calling him out, but he's not above humans. Like, you know, like, he is fantastic. And like, in terms of commentary, when you look at what Steve does, Steve is one of the best globally. Like, not
He's
talking
a commodity.
about
He's an icon.
FGC, not talking about like within commentary as a whole nature, Steve is one of the best. But that's still, he's still a human. Like, his voice gets crackly if he talks too much the day before.
Listen, he done, and he always makes this mistake. And I feel he done top 8 for Guilty Gear last year, and you could hear it. He's like, you know, your voice is done, and he had to do that. I remember top 8. That was like,
wait, are you talking about Evo?
Yeah, Evo last year.
Do you remember?
Everyone was like,
do you remember? So, to add context, I bring bottles of whiskey with me where I go, right? Because as I'm flying, there's duty free, and
oh yeah,
you know,
you take advantage of it.
Look, I play that stereotype, man, like a fiddle, dude. The Irish guy is about to bring me a bottle of whiskey. Okay, cool, right? So I was over in Vegas, and normally I'll buy 2, one for me, one for whoever who booked me for the show or the production manager, whatever. So I'd given the guy who picked me for the show, and I had a bottle of whiskey, and I said it to the guys, all of the guys I was with. You were included in this. I don't know if you remember, but I was like, after we did top 8 in-house, it was me, Spag, and Steve. I said to the boys, I was like, shot of whiskey, let's go, right? So obviously there's people working, like there's 100 people on their crew, like, you know, people are running through with like walkie-talkies and headsets on or whatever. But the head of their production, the deep-voiced menace himself, goes, get the fuck out of here right now. What are you doing? We're working here. And I was like,
yeah,
fair, 100%. I'm an idiot here. I'm the first ever Irish commentator at Evo, right? I'm an idiot, right? He goes, there's a production room back there. Go to it. Production room 2 or whatever. Like, so tiny little room, little TV that shows like the mainstream or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
And that's where you were definitely there for one point, but it was me, you, C4 was there, Steve was there,
Umar, I think.
Yeah, Umar was there, and then the twins were there as well.
Yeah.
And Jesus Christ, man, that night got wild, man. Like, you know, fucking slamming
some
whiskey.
Nights, so listen, some nights I don't drink, but obviously some nights do get wild. And like I said, post production talk, post commentary talk, it's fine because again, it's very interesting people's perception of you because you can't show everything about yourself or how much you know about a game or anything on camera. You'll learn way much more about a person off the camera if you get the chance to speak to them, of course. And it's like, obviously, in our industry, in our circles, it's like you've learned more about myself, Steve, Spag, whoever, just by hanging out and having a chat. So when you do have a conversation with us on the mic, it's just much more organic. And that's what you should try and thrive to be, is like much more organic on the mic. It's, hey, we chatted about this, we laughed about that, da-da-da. So it's very interesting. Sometimes I go to an event and people are like, oh my God, it's the person. And it's like, dude, I just play games just like you do. Because outside of this sphere, when I go to the supermarket, I'm just another guy.
That's it, man. That's it. Like, we don't get noticed. Like, unless you're at an event. No way. Have you got noticed?
No. Yeah.
What?
So I've been noticed in the supermarket 3 times.
What?
I got the thing is, I can't count it. I got noticed on the way to UFA last year, but that was from another commentator, but I didn't know who he was.
Right.
He just he sat next to me, but he saw me playing Street Fighter, and he kind of popped his phone in my face like this. Like, put his phone there.
Shut the fuck up. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Whoever that is, stop doing that.
No, I've been noticed a few times.
Shit, dude.
But it's like, trust me, some people, you don't know who's watching. Some people would see you, and it's just like, hey, you were on that broadcast. Obviously, in the gaming industry, it's easier because obviously gaming space people.
Sure, if you're at a gaming event, you almost expect it, right? Like,
yeah. But outside of that, it's like, yo, that's different. That's like hella different.
Yeah,
but
it happens.
No, it's gonna be, well, I mean, with new games on the horizon, more people being interested in this sort of thing, it could be bigger for anyone. It could be bigger.
It's gonna be bigger for fucking everyone, dude. I'm calling it now. 6 and Tekken 8, Project L are about to launch us into like a different level of esports. Like,
we will see, because I think one thing as well you always got to worry about is like, there is a possibility you could not like the next game.
Of course.
There's always that possibility.
But that's the individual, man. These companies are designed to appeal to the masses. Like, if you think
but I'm saying, if you want it to be the next big thing, right? If you don't like how Tekken 8 plays or how it looks, then you ain't going you're going into oblivion, mate.
Nah, man, I'm about to be multiverses for life, dude. Let's go, dude, man. You ain't checking out my fucking Iron Giant, bro.
Nah, it's I do think about it a lot, because I've done SF5 for so long, throughout its entire lifespan. People are like, yeah, you're going to be on SF6, yeah? And I'm like, look, man, I'll play it, but I don't know if I'm going to like it.
So,
like, that's the thing.
For anybody that doesn't know, Jammerz just did a Tekken 7 show, and Twitter went fucking nuts. It was like, Akuma confirmed for Tekken 8, for anybody that doesn't know.
That was wild, right? Right, so what we talking about Tekken?
We're talking about Tekken. You're kind of, I can feel you're kind of, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, but like, your fingers are starting to extend over to the dark side, like, what's going on?
No, do you know what? I've watched Tekken for a little while. I watch it because of mainly because of Bubsy. Shout out to Bubsy. Spag I've worked with, Spag I've been around for ages, so I can chat shit with Spag for a lot of the time. I mainly because I mainly like Bubsy's commentary, Bubsy's work in general.
Bubsy's insane, man.
Like, shout outs to Bubsy. I was really glad that he got into the TWT finals.
Dude, if he didn't, that would have been a fucking riot,
do you know what?
Dude.
Here's the thing, right? Before we go back on the Tekken thing, sometimes that will happen. Like, production teams, like, there's people you should never 100% assume someone's going to be on a broadcast, because here's the thing, right? No, I'll give an example, right? And I look up to this guy for commentary all the time, Seth Killian, right? There's been Seth Killian. I remember I had breakfast with Seth Killian once. Me and Mark had breakfast with Seth Killian. It was insane. It was so sick, and that's a moment I will always cherish, right?
Okay.
You don't see Seth Killian active in the scene but then you just see him at Evo the one time and you never see him again. Right. And it's like, right, but no one bats an eyelid when someone's in that position. It's like, wait, hang on, because there'll be other people. It's like, okay, you haven't done X, Y, and Z to build up to this event, so you shouldn't be on the big event. But then there'll be that one guy that comes on the big event and nobody says a word.
Dude, James Chen might not work for the entire year. he is guaranteed top 8. Like,
Well, no,
like,
but you just never know, because every production team has their vision on how broadcast should work. They have their group of people they want to work with. So it differs from company to company, person to person. So leading up to Capcom Cup, you see me every week doing a show, playing the game. I do this, and people are like, "Oh, you're on the cup." I said, "So who told you that?" They're like, "Oh, I just assumed." So I said, "Well, I can assume you have a Ferrari, but here we are." like you can't just assume that somebody's going to be in the place, because that might not be the case. Because with some people, they assume that their favorite comment's going to be there, and they're not there, and it's just like, "Oh, what's happened? Why isn't this person here? Let them be here." And it's like, well, they're not going to tell you all the logistics as to why said person isn't here, why said person is here.
Yep.
You just kind of have to accept the talent lineup and then move along.
Dude.
Because don't get me wrong, even I feel like certain people should be at certain events, but they're not. You don't necessarily know the reason.
Dude.
Because I remember there was 2019 TWT. I think Spag was there, but Bubsy wasn't. And Bubsy was doing tons of work that year for Tekken. So people were like, "Where's Bubsy?"
I actually remember that. Yeah.
And then then I think Bubsy told me the situation. I'm not going to divulge it here, but Bubsy told me the situation. And it's like, sometimes production teams will make the wrong call. I remember there was one year where Tyrant and Damascus, they went to every event in Europe to do Dragon Ball. The finals was in California, and neither of them were on the broadcast. So people were like, "Where are they?" And there was such an uproar. Damascus said, "I will fly myself out there just to be on the broadcast." All because that team, just from my assumption, that team wasn't aware.
Right. Yeah. They only watched the American broadcasts. Yeah.
Or they already had a list of people that was on their like, you just don't know all the lists. So it's never safe to assume that someone's gonna be there because they've worked. Look, sometimes people prefer quality over quantity.
I mean,
when you go to 35 events out of 36, okay, people are clearly gonna say, "Okay, this guy gives a shit." It doesn't mean you're gonna make it on the final one.
Fair. But dude, there's almost the opposite that happened with Tekken and Pakistan. The Pakistan became the big boy region in Tekken, and it just so happened that Pakistan sits very comfortably in payment of flights between Asia and Central Europe. So if the Americans, if there's a big Pakistan event going on, like stuff like Takra Cup that Spag is involved in doing, and there's a show on later on the year that they're just like, if we're getting big names, we're picking them from Europe, because the difference between a €500 flight and a €1,500 flight, if they want to bring the big boys, Markman, Rip, Steve, you know,
got to pay a pretty penny.
That's it, and they can save $1,000 on flights alone just to have me, just to have Bubsy, just to have any of these boys. And obviously we can deliver the product to maybe not the same, I'm only speaking to myself here now, but if you get Steve, you get 100%. If you get any of the Europeans, maybe 85-90% of the same product, that if they can save a €1,000 on that, they'll take that.
Listen, man, some people, I'm gonna look again, deadpan in the camera here, some people are picked for jobs for cost-effective reasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're not gonna like it that I said that, but because, listen, I've said this in general, if the world was based off of meritorious deeds, some of us wouldn't be where we are today.
Fucking
and I'm even pointing at people above me. and it's like, in terms of this pecking order that we mentioned at the start, some people would not be where they are today if they didn't have a relationship or a shoehorn in the door somewhere with somebody, because it was based on hard work. My word, with everyone's perspective change on this shit. That would be insane.
But then again, not to discourage anybody, I had no friends in the industry before I started. Literally zero. I was the Irish guy. That was it. I knew the guy who ran Celtic Throwdown, but never did I use him to get shows. I made
No, but like
friends.
here's the thing, right? Sorry to cut you off there. Here's the
No
thing.
problem.
This is why you gotta give credit to people who can scout talent.
Fair.
Like Mark and Richard. All right, I'm gonna say it because I'm their boy. They're not the brightest bulbs in the room. They're not. But in terms of, they might not see it in the FGC. Sometimes they see potential elsewhere. It's just that the industry they're in, they said, we can craft something out of this. We see something in you that can be used. It might not necessarily be for a fighting game tournament. It could be used for a gaming convention, or it could be used for something bigger or completely different.
Yep.
They seen talent. Look, mostly the reason I'm here is because of those two.
Dude, I'm exactly the same.
when they first saw me, they said, okay, he might not know a flipping clue about fighting games, but we see something there. We see something there. And other people will go, okay, he might not be fighting game savvy, but I'll tell you what, and I find this hilarious. They say you're not cut out to do certain things, but there's been times where people who have spoken about me in a negative regard, they've used some of the vocabulary I've introduced to the FGC, right? And they have kind of taken away that I articulate things. I'm like, so you say I can't do it, but you'll take man's techniques. I'm like, okay. I'm just like, hey, listen, what's it? Imitation is the best form of flattery, or something like that.
Imitation is the best form of flattery. Yeah,
right.
Dude, I take it as the Nikolai Tesla with, I think it was Marconi. I could be wrong. And he said he's a nice guy. I really, really like the guy, except for the fact that he's using 17 of my patents. Like, you know, like.
Right. And I'll tell you something else, right? Because I was talking about this with someone else before, because going back, because we said we go on many tangents here, no structure in this show.
No.
We were like, one of the things people remember me by is because I know the move names in Street Fighter, like I was talking about before, and this goes back to the point I was making about the whole encyclopedia thing. Some people would ask me, what's the move name? And I just happen to know what it is. So shout outs to Logan. Logan went on this crusade. When Logan believes something, or he's put something in his head, he is a firm believer of that. So he will go, right, I will say a move name that people barely knew. And I noticed this early, right? People remember move names if it's iconic or you've been hit by it too much. Because when you've been hit by it too much, you go and look at what it's called.
Yeah.
That's how. And then obviously with iconic move names, Hadouken, Shoryuken, Tatsu, Electric Wing, Godfist.
Sure.
The
shit that transcends.
The spin kick. I can't remember the spin kick. Rising Sun. I can't remember what the spin kick was
Hell
called.
Sweep.
Hell Sweep. Right.
Yeah.
You just you remember those, right? So my angle at coming into move names was two reasons. When I watch sports, you do not hear the commentators go, number 11 passes to number 7 passes to number 9 passes to number 4. Unless you are that deep rooted, ingrained in the sport, you don't know who the hell they're talking about.
Fair.
So you go by their names, and they have to remember basically all the name, even the man that don't play, the reserves. They have to remember those guys' names, right? And then I'm like, there's another thing as well. If you listen to Japanese commentary, my word, are they saying things? They're saying all the move names, and people don't even realize it.
Really?
Listen. Okay, to give you context, Bison's scissor kick, we call him, when he comes forward and hits you with the 2-hitting knee. It's called knee press. I will hear them say knee press. I will hear them call Blanca's move names by Blanca's move, and I'm like, these bros are they're actually doing it. So I said, why is no one in the West doing this? So then I'll tell you a couple of moves people know because I keep repeating it. Laura's command grab is called Sunset Wheel. People know what Sunset Wheel is because I keep going Sunset Wheel, Sunset Wheel, Sunset Wheel. I just keep repeating it.
Damn.
And then people know what Bison's down forward hard punch is called Psycho Axe. That's a fucking cool name.
Psycho Axe is a great name.
Right. Man. People used to call it, I remember this, in the early days, people used to call it down forward hard punch. I said, nah, hits him with the Psycho Axe. They said, what's that? And I said, down forward hard punch.
First of all, quicker than down forward hard punch. Psycho Axe like shortens down for a commentator like syllable wise and sounds way cooler. Fucking Psycho Axe.
Right. There are some really cool move names in these games that people don't repeat. And do you know? I'll give you another reason as well. Do you remember a guy called Combo Fiend?
Combo Fiend, no.
You don't remember Combo Fiend? Marvel player. He used to work at Capcom. You don't remember? Damn. Okay.
Outside of my comfort zone now, unless
Combo
Bandai.
Combo Fiend was one of the most like memorable and iconic guys.
I think I'm following him on Twitter.
You might do. Peter Combo Fiend Roses.
Yes, I actually am following him.
No, shout outs to Combo Fiend because I saw him at the Capcom Cup as well. Combo Fiend is a guy, and he used to play Street Fighter Cross Tekken, my favorite fighting game, and he had such an interesting perspective on that. Combo Fiend used to do this video series with Haunts, where they used to go through patches of the game, and they'd say the balance changes, but they'd call out the move name and what it did. And I was like, why is no one doing this anymore? Why aren't people because some people would call moves by this very weird colloquial name. And it was like, okay, so there was the old man in Street Fighter 4 again, with the 2 stances, right? He had this up kick where he'd do like this uppercut, and then you have to press the button at this certain time, and he just repeatedly kick you upwards. People called it waterfall kick. And I was like, that has nothing to do with a waterfall. But people remembered it by that. But then there were some other instances where guys remembered, like Dudley. They remembered every move in Dudley's move list because you've been hit by it too much. So I said, right, I'm just going to go and set a standard for myself, right? Now, going back to what I was saying with Logan, I was sitting with him once, and he goes, how do you know what these are called? And I said, because I look up the moves in the command list. I thought that's what every commentator did. This is me not having the knowledge at the time. This was me having an assumption.
That was actually about to be my next question. But
yeah, because I said, I thought people naturally did this because I assumed from sports you do this. Because for me, I think people in the FGC, their commentary style is a reflection of their nation's sport. So for us, mainly in the UK, if you hear myself, Logan, F word, there's slight correlation to that.
Yeah.
If you hear the Americans now, they got more of a wrestling style because a lot of them are actually into wrestling. I'm not sure about NFL and the Super Bowl in general, but if you kind of see similarities, it's kind of there. And then I was saying these move names, and Logan asked, how do you know this stuff? And I was like, well, I just thought everybody did this sort of thing, but clearly they don't. So I'll just learn the move names because I need to remember what these moves are. And if I'm going to explain the move in different ways, I'll call it by its official move name and maybe an everyday name that people come up with. Now, one time, I will never forget this, and there's footage of this. I just need to find out where it is. Me and Logan we were doing some analysis on a character in Street Fighter. And I said the move name. Logan said, what's that called? And I said, the move was called Valiant Rebellion. So it's a stomp that one of the characters does.
Valiant Rebellion.
Yeah, it's a weird, crazy name, right?
Great
But
words.
then he goes, who learns the names of the actual moves? And I was like, okay, cool. Because I do that. That's me. Now, check this out. 6 months later, he had to do one of the regional finals, and that exact Kane character came up on screen. And he had to do some solo commentary by himself.
No way. Valiant Rebellion.
He got confused by what the moves were, and he said these exact words, and he said, damn, I really should learn the name of these moves. And I was like, I said, good. Weren't you the same guy that asked me 6 months ago?
What are you learning though? It's like,
right.
Yeah.
And then this is how I think this is where it gets funny for me, because sometimes I know so much. It's sorry. Sometimes I have to hold myself back because it might be a bit overwhelming for the next guy.
Okay.
So when someone does come on and they've done some homework, I'm like, oh, great, we can have a conversation now.
Yeah.
And then there was one point, right, where when Logan learns something, he will let you know. So he repeated a move name while we were on commentary, and he goes, oh yeah, so G, the president, the guy with the top hat right. He said, oh yeah, so G's got this kind of like this far range punch called G smash over. He goes, yeah, it does the G smash over. He says, see, I'm learning. And the other character G was fine was Vega. So I literally went like this. I said, yeah, hits him with the Aurora spin edge into this low forward and then goes into Bloody Rain. And then he said to me, thanks, Jammerz, for sure. I said, when you're actually ready to do this, we can do this. Like, because nobody does it. And it's like, There's
Fair.
not many times where I can really let loose.
Sure. I
And
mean,
go-
but there,
Because some people will go, sorry, some people will go, it's not necessary, or it's like, what I said, nah,
think
some of
it's-
these moves are actually pretty damn cool.
but they have sick ass names, and like as a commentator, if you're looking for something to shout out as some shit goes down, you would rather it be Matterhorn, Electric Wind, Godfist than Launch. Like, you know, they just sound cooler. But like,
No, everyone's perspective on it is different, but over time, more Street Fighter guys started learning move names, and I was like, well, I don't know where you guys got that from, but I'm glad.
Jammerz,
glad
let's
people are
be
doing
fair. We know where they got it from. We
I
know
said-
where
I-
they
I-
got it from, right?
I was like, I said, it's great that, and do you know what's crazy now? Some people, this is what was interesting, right? And I spoke about this on Twitter, because some people on social media after the cup, they said, I don't know how you know the move name to every single character, because some of your ability really gets reflected on the size of a roster. Think about it. If a game had 80 plus characters and you knew the vast majority of move names, the matchup situations, people are going to go, this guy has an extensive amount of knowledge. This is crazy. So people are like, how do you know the move names? I said, no, I just know enough to get by. Then somebody actually, because no one actually asked me. No one asked me. And someone, shouts to Mandrake, he's a very solid player, qualified for the CPT Finals one year. He said, do you actually know the move name of every move in the game? And I said, I don't. But when I tried to tell people in the past I don't, they didn't believe it. Because every time they gave me a move, I said the name. And then they just said, no, you're lying. And I was like, okay, that's just your image of me in your head. I don't care. So when this guy asked, I'm like, I'm glad you asked, because I don't.
Fair.
Like, legit, I don't.
This
and
was-
I said, oh, go on.
This was about to be my next question. So when you're in practice mode in
Yep.
Street Fighter or whatever, and you're labbing a character or whatever, when I lab a character, I don't even like. It's more about like the motion, the animation, what's happening in that situation, versus the actual name. But obviously, for you, when you're in the lab, you're reading that name, right? Like,
So I know the motions. I go in the command list, see what's up, because I'm going to be talking about this character to a wider audience.
Right.
There's been there's been times where people are like, look, Jammerz, you say a move name, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. You say the notion, I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm like, okay, I don't really care. But there was one move. Sorry. There was one move where, what was it? There you go. It was Seth's 100 hands, right?
Okay.
So the Seth's 100 hands is called Hecatoncheires. Now, Hecatoncheires is
what?
it's basically Hecatoncheires, you can look up, it's a 100-hand god, basically. It's a god that had 100 arms. So he does this. And he hits you with so many. Right. Now, if you look up how to pronounce that name on YouTube, type it on Google and type in Hecatoncheires pronunciation, I guarantee this comment should still be there. Someone goes, I'm only here because of Seth and Street Fighter 5. I need to know how to pronounce it, right? And it sounds like a flipping cool move. And some of these moves have real meanings behind them.
Sure.
And people are just like, nah, I'm not gonna call it that. I'm just call it JoJo Punch. Because it sounds memorable, or 100-hand attack or something. There's gonna be names that are gonna be memorable. I'm just saying, for me, I look at things and explaining them or talk about them in more than one form. So I'll give it its official move name. I'll give it the unique nickname or whatever. I'll give it different names, but I always know the official information. And then what's interesting is recently, see, I like doing this because when I know this happened with other people as well, you'll kind of set a trend or you'll do something, everyone catches up, and then you flip it on its head. So now, when everyone started saying the move names, what do you think I started doing?
Please tell me you didn't do notations.
Yeah, no. I didn't say. I just went back to what they were calling it. So if someone goes, oh yeah, hits him with a flash kick, I'll go, yeah, hits him with the DP, and I said, oh, but Jammerz, that's called a flash kick. I thought you knew that, and I'm like, you're telling me? I was like, wow. I was like, okay. I said,
You're a monkey in my circus, so believe that I know.
no, because some people would go, oh, you should, because when you do things in life, people are gonna expect you to do things. So
Fair.
if you do things that build your brand or whatever, and you're like, yeah, Jammerz, because again, this can be a little bit disheartening, and this happens with someone I work with on a very regular basis. So I know a lot about the game, but people go, yeah, oh, you're known for the move names. I'm like, is that what my USP is to you?
Yeah.
Nothing else matters. It's just that you know the move names, because now that it's become standardized, what's the USP?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, there's other things you're not listening. That's what stood out to you at the start when nobody else was doing it. When I thought it was an everyday thing.
Yeah.
Now there's one guy I work with, shouts to Veggie. Veggie is probably one of the most handsome men you will ever see walking this earth. Right? 100%. If you see him,
Beautiful.
even guys will go, yo, like, yeah, 11 out of 10, 12 out of 10, whatever. Right? For a while, Veggie is a top player. He qualified for the CPT Finals. And like, he has a pretty damn good understanding of the game. When me and him would talk to people, a lot of people would go, "Oh, Veggie, you got your looks, it's fine." And I'm like, "Damn, that must be a bit painful." It's a compliment, but you're kind of brushing everything else aside.
Sure.
Because he looks handsome. So it's like, is he supposed to just get? But when he's trying to show you everything else about him, all you see is his looks. And I'm like, that can sting to some people.
Absolutely. I relate this to luck, and I'm sure you've gotten this. The people say, oh my God, Jammerz, you're so lucky that you get to do what's fun as a job, right? I'm sure, like, because I only know because I get this from the boys in my hometown. But all you do is you go over and you talk shit about a video game. That's so lucky. You're so lucky. And it has nothing to do with the amount of work that we've put in the last...
No one will ever see that.
Nobody sees the shit tournaments that you did where you had to do a 6-hour broadcast with no break and you're solo. Like, nobody sees those.
I'll tell you what, right? Right. Answer me this. Riddle me this. What has been your longest shift? Do you remember?
It's probably about 6 hours.
Okay.
6.5.
Right. I think my one was solo commentary.
Yeah.
12 hours.
Yo!
Team tournament.
What?
Team tournament.
2 tournaments?
No, team.
Oh,
tournament.
a team. You did 12 fucking hours. Solo. Jesus, man. That makes me uncomfortable.
I will say this. Right? Sometimes people will look at you in a different light when they see you by yourself.
Of course.
Sometimes when you're working with someone, they're always comparing you to the co-commentator and other things. If they see you, it's automatically like you get a pass. If you're by yourself, they're like, man, where's this guy's drink? He needs a break. You're doing a good job. You might be saying the most incorrect shit, but they're like, nah, man, you're solo. You deserve all of this.
Yep.
I was like,
yep. But dude,
it's interesting.
And
really
yet,
interesting.
when you're walking around the Evo floor, you know, you're walking around the thing, people say you're so lucky to get this job, dude. Like, I respect what you do, man. You are so lucky.
No, but
like,
but to be fair, sorry to cut you off. Like, you have to understand. Do you know what? I used to whinge about this a lot because I've wanted to leave or stop doing this like 9-10 times.
Really? Yeah.
I've wanted to.
Legit.
I know, because,
you're out.
No, legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a couple of years ago, I'd always look back on the year and say, is this worth doing another year? Not financially, just in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, is this worth it? Is the scene receptive? Do I want to be around these people? Because sometimes you leave jobs because of people, not the actual job itself.
Fair.
The job itself is
100%.
fantastic.
Yep.
Sometimes you just leave because of people. It's like, do you want to be in this environment sort of thing? And there's been times where I'm just like, you know what? I'm done. Like, I don't want to do this. But then I'll get a call from someone. It's like, I just need to help here and there real quick. And it's fine. And then obviously it tides over and then we get back into it. So don't get me wrong. There has been times where I've just wanted to just sod off and just go back to being a regular citizen. But it's this, it's not all bells and whistles, cookies and cream, wherever you go. And then I used to whinge about this a lot. My dad goes, listen, you are one of the 5% of people in this world who's actually doing what they want to do. Because he'd go, he said, the next time you go on public transport, look around and then try and see if you can picture how many people are actually going to a job they want to do.
Fair. Wow.
And then like, because obviously he drives, but sometimes we go to places on public transport.
Yeah.
And one time he said, look around you. He said, do these people look like they're going to somewhere they want to go?
Shit, dude. Never thought about that. Holy fuck.
And then, do you know what? Like, because my dad is very invested in what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, he once he told me that, I still complained because it's just British thing to do. You just complain about everything. But I buttoned it a lot more.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, listen, there are some people, I'm just like, yo, I'm getting flown out to Hollywood. This guy's going to his local supermarket to get shot at his boss that he does. Right. So even if something shit happens when I'm at the event, I got flown out to the event. The concept to people is out of this world. Because it's like, right. I remember because my dad likes traveling to like America.
Mm-hmm.
When I first told him, Dad, someone's flying me out to Vegas, he was over the moon. That's when he started really going in. It's like, listen,
yeah.
you're actually doing something you want to do.
Mm.
But then my sister, because I brought my dad to one of these events, so doing like Gfinity back in 2017, 2018.
Damn.
Because my dad,
Gfinity, that's relics, man.
he didn't quite understand what I was doing for the first couple of years I was doing this. But then when I brought him over, and the response or the kind of the reception I received, because I said, Dad, these are people I work with. They go, oh, your son's amazing. So think about a parent hearing praise about their child.
Sure.
And when they don't normally hear that, that's gonna make you over the moon. So after my dad was like, he said, so when's your next broadcast? When you flying out next? Trust me, he'll always ask, where are you going next? But it's this thing where that always stuck with me when he goes, you are doing what you want to do. There's people out there who are not, like, they got to tolerate shit they don't want to deal with. They're going somewhere they don't want to go. Heck, some of them might not actually be working. So it's like you can never take this for granted. But then obviously go back to my point before with my sister. She said, if this was more of a public space, like a public sector job, I probably would have moved departments ages ago. Because if this was more, if you could just like bounce and disappear to another region, but still get the same pay, the same amount of opportunities, you'd see a lot more people jumping around, I reckon.
But when you say different departments, are you talking about production? Are you talking about like TOing?
It could be
those departments.
Like production, like production teams you work with. Maybe other talent you work with. If you could still be in this space but work with a different set of people, because you didn't like the previous set of people you worked with. Fair. I think you'd have a lot more people bouncing around the houses. To be honest,
I completely agree, but. Dude, it was a funny story. It made me think about it there. It only happened this week that I'm being flown out to a show. This is probably going out afterwards. So it's the European Tekken Finals.
Oh, look at you. Oh.
You know we do. No, but I was saying like that I was talking to the guy about flights, and you know, flights are always a contentious issue because we're in Europe. We have to fly everywhere. Like, there's not a train that we can get from here to France, which is where the show is on. Like, right?
Well, I mean, I can.
Yeah, you can, but I'm in this little spit of fucking dirt off the west coast of your land. And I was just saying, and I was like, the guy hit me up about flights, and I was like, hey, this is my airport. And I said to him, I was like, look, I really, really don't want early morning flights. Or, like, to there or the way back or whatever.
Yeah.
And whatever, I had that conversation on Discord or Twitter or whatever. And I went down to my girlfriend and I said, yeah, I was just having this chat with this guy. I said, I don't want early morning flights. You know, and she was like, who the fuck do you think you are? You are doing a job that 90% of people that watch you doing that job want your job. And now you're talking about you don't want to wake up early in the morning for that job. Shut the fuck up. If they book you a flight at 6 a.m, you're on that plane. I don't care. Like, you know. And I was like,
shout out to your missus.
Dude, my girl is insane, man. She grounds me. Like, she keeps me in the kind of human level. Like, you know, she tells me like, what is not acceptable and what's acceptable in the human realm. But she was just like, shut the fuck up. Like, everybody around you wants your fucking job. Like, stop giving out that you have to wake up at 8 a.m. to be on a flight.
It's still like a natural thing to do. Like, that's the only. It sounds a bit childish, I know, but it's like, look, even I grumble everywhere. I'm just like, yeah, this, and it's like whatever. But sometimes I'm just like, you know what? Well, most of the time, I'm like, look, they're flying me out, they're giving me accommodation, and like they're paying mans for the job. Just go and do it.
But that's it. You forget context though. When you explain that to one of your friends who works in an accountancy firm, they're like, they're paying your flight and your hotel and they're paying you. What are you talking about? But we don't experience that because that's every job for us. Like, you know.
Yeah, listen, there's some people where I remember I was at this event. You might not have seen it, right? Sherry's got a documentary on Amazon, or she's part of a documentary on Amazon called Mind Games.
I know this. Yep.
Right. And I went to go watch the premiere to that with Mark, Richard, and a few other people. Right.
I saw you in a suit on Twitter, bro.
That's it. That's a different world, by the way. That's a very different world. So I met some women there, and they were asking. One of them was Nora. I believe her name was Nora. She's Irish as well, actually.
Let's go. Best women in the world.
But she, I have to take your word for it. She was asking about who I knew in the documentary and the whole space of what we do. So I was explaining, it's like, look, I know Sherry. We travel the world to play these events. And then she goes, so how does it work? I said, oh, people will email me, say we want to fly you out to this event. And they go, wait, they fly you out to this event? And I went, ladies, I said, it's 2022. Or so I say, it's 2023 now. And I said, if you're still paying for your own flights, you're doing something wrong.
It's so true. It's so true.
But it's like, okay, I'm flying for work, but I'm still flying to another country. And when people see that you're traveling to other places, not off your own dime, and this is something, remember, you said this already, this is something you have to work for.
Fucking A.
This is something you have to work for. It's not just, it doesn't just come
I went broke for 12 months flying myself to shows just to get the experience of going on the mic.
Now, let me ask you this, right? Do you feel like somebody once told me, if you're not gonna, this was a player, if you're not gonna sponsor yourself, why should anyone sponsor you?
Ooh.
You're not. It's like, because
that's
now,
so good. Holy shit, man. That's
it's like there was this entitlement that went round where it's like people are like, oh, I want to be sponsored. I'm a full-time player. Yeah, but you can't make it out to events. So why should anyone sponsor you if you can't pay your own way?
If you're not paying the tube from East London to West London, you don't deserve for shit. Like,
here's the thing as well, right? Now, like you said, you were paving the way to go to these events to get the experience to get the jobs. Yes, 100%. Okay. But let's say somebody in that time where you weren't getting these paid gigs, someone was flying you out there, but you weren't getting paid, because there's more than one avenue to get to these places.
Sure.
But obviously, the most traditional and grinding sense or grinding perspective is I pay for myself to be here to then get a job. But nothing is guaranteed in life except the money back on your broken toaster.
That's it.
That's literally it. Because you could be flying to all these events, and then you not get called up for finals day.
Exactly.
But then there's different ways, and you also have to remember, because what this guy said to me, it's true and it still sticks. But times do change. Times change. So that time now, think about it, right? People before me, they were traveling to events on their own dime, doing this X, Y, and Z. Now you got people being birthed through an online era. So you can't necessarily fault them, because it's like, wait, you're in the same position as me, but I've done a harder grind than you. Times have changed. You could things are going to change. So it's like because some people used to have a go at me for this. It's like, wait, you don't travel to X, Y, and Z. And it's like, yeah, but because I don't travel to X, Y, and Z, what makes you say I'm not doing work elsewhere? What makes you do work elsewhere or doing some other thing that allows me to get this opportunity? It doesn't have to be. I think there's this very archaic way of thinking, which it's fine to a degree, but not the whole way, right? So let's use your example, right? You traveled for 12 months and you almost went broke to get this opportunity.
I did go broke.
Now,
I had to
yeah, no,
borrow
right.
money, but go
So
on.
some people, or sorry, for some people, you might look at them grow. Tekken 8, for example, you might see someone grow faster than you and think, wait, he didn't do the exact same thing I did. He shouldn't deserve the same opportunities. How do you know that, though? The times have changed. The circumstances have changed.
I absolutely hate that mentality. There is, like, so anybody that I see around when we go up to events, like, and I'm talking, like, I didn't know St. before UFA. I barely knew Dunk. I obviously knew you from the Twins and stuff, like, but, like, anybody that was in that, like, Acoustics, St. any of these, like, big US guys or whatever, now they're one of the boys. I don't care how quick you've come up. I don't know your story. I don't, like, I know your story specifically, Jammerz, but I don't know St. story. I don't know Acoustic story. I don't know these boys here or whatever. But if we're all sitting at the same table, we're all at the same table, if you get me.
Like, everyone's there for a reason. Whether you like it or not, everybody's there for a reason, right? And I've heard people lament about, how certain things are run, which is fine because everyone can have a complaint or two about a job. But it's like, look, because I remember some people used to complain about me getting opportunities, but when we were at the same event, I'm just like, so why you're not complaining? You're not complaining now.
Yeah, you go commentate your pools. I'm gonna do top 8. Like, stop bitching, man. Like, I mean,
do you know what? No, but it's fine to bitch though. But it's like when you make it a constant thing. Because, like, I get it. Like, people, in some degree, in your career, whatever it is you do, you are going to have to go through a grinding period. You're going to have to go through that hardcore working phase, right?
You have to get
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's going to happen faster for some people and way later for some. Some people grow a bit too fast, so they run before they can walk sort of thing. But it's like, you can't be so bitter and malicious about someone getting opportunity because that's not you. That's them. If they squander that opportunity, that's not on you. And sometimes when you bitch or do certain things, the wrong thing might slip out, and the guy or whoever they might catch wind of it, and their perspective on you is going to change completely. So you've really got to worry about yourself, be grateful that you're there, and some people have learned this over time. Because for me, like, I would, if I didn't get an opportunity and someone else did, I'd be like, you know what? I commentate as well, not as well as you do, but I do commentary in the same field as you do. Like, knock it out of the park with that event. I know how difficult that is to do that and prepare for it, so do it. But then there was a period of time when I got opportunity. People were like, why is Jammerz there? He doesn't deserve to be there. And I'm like, well, we just don't think the same way.
Yeah.
We just don't think the same way. And I don't have time to waste that kind of energy. Instead of wondering why you there, just say, how do you get there next time?
Yeah, I mean, fair, I agree, but, like, when I hear those, and, like, to be fair, because I'm the newest guy on the Tekken scene, I get a lot of those comments, like, oh, but why is this guy instead of this guy? Because I'm the newest guy, so their friend is at the same level as me, right?
You'll always get that. You'll always get that.
But that shit makes me fucking study, dude. Like, I use that as a sort of fuel. Like, okay, well, if that guy doesn't believe that I understand enough about this shit, I'm a perfect that shit, and I'm a get this unlock. So the next show, if I see his fucking comment on it, I'll be like, fucking fuck you, dude. Like,
here's the thing, right? If people, this is what I was saying way back earlier when we were talking about this whole hater thing or whatever, right? If multiple people say, mention a problem, but they're all in unison with it. So if, let's say, 6 people said, you know what, like, you keep saying this move incorrectly or doing that, okay, then there is a problem because people have agreed on it. If it's one person, it's like, okay, you generally might be a bona fide hater. You just might be a bona fide hater. You don't like Sam, whatever, and that's it. But then when multiple people bring it up, it's like, okay, maybe we have to kind of consider this because more than one person has brought it up. They might have explained it differently, but we do need to sort this out.
Yeah.
All you want is, if people are gonna, if you don't have haters, you're not doing something correctly. And also, if you
wait, are you serious? Does everyone get haters?
Yeah. Look, no, listen. Everyone gets haters. If you don't have haters, you're doing something wrong. You can't be liked by everyone. You can't be you can't please everyone either. Like once people understand that, because I think there will be a bit of naivety at the start when you do this whole thing. But when you learn that you cannot please everybody, my God, does every broadcast become that much greater? Because there will be times where it's like, okay, I really want to do a good job and receive a listen, I've seen people influenced by what Twitter thinks. I was like, are you serious? But then
Worst.
I'll be like, look, if I've made the production team happy, you know, Catcom employees or my other co-commentators enjoy working with me, I really couldn't care who else thinks about whatever, because if the stream dictated how much money you earned off of this or whether or not you should be on an event, then fuck me, mate. Some of us, yeah, look, then you better be like sweating profusely, right? But they don't do that, right?
Fair.
So it's very interesting how the reception of you changes, not you specifically, but the reception of you changes over time. I said my background, and it's very interesting how their attitude is saying, it's like, I haven't forgotten, but it's like, I could see this naturally going to change over time anyway, because let's be real here. If there's someone, you don't have to like the person you're sitting next to at work, but please respect what they do. That's what I always say.
That's so important. That's so
you don't have
important.
to, you don't have to like them. Just go, look, just respect them. Even if it's just basic pleasantries, and call it a day.
But so this became a new thing, but your opinion isn't as important as you think it is. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, your opinion, and if you decide that you don't like this particular person or this particular ideal or whatever, it's not your responsibility to educate the masses on that. Like, you're not an educator. You're just a fucking influencer. Like, fucking...
Oh, that word. Oh, sorry.
Push your fucking makeup. Fucking push your fucking headphones. Like, do your thing. Make your money. And I respect... Like, I can't stress enough. Entrepreneurs, I fucking love them. If you can make money off an idea, that's such a fantastic idea. Like I love that. But do not associate that with your merit as a human. Like, there are some fucking great humans that I know that are broke as all hell. And when I buy them shit, if I go down to their house and bring them a bottle of vodka, they won't drink it because they didn't buy it. And I'm like, fuck, dude. I tell you what, I'll pour it, you drink it, man. Like, you know, like, but these people, like, you know, like, your opinions or these aren't your personality. Like, you know, like, whatever you believe, if you're left, right, centrist, if you have this view on that sort of shit, that's not your personality. Like, it might influence it, but there's also a thing that you might be entirely opposed to the majority of that. You just have this one belief about this thing.
Look, man, we're all humans. We're all entitled to our own opinions.
That's it, man.
I mean, listen, opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. So it's really interesting. And sometimes, again, like you can obviously opinions and things sway you, because sometimes you'll get big influencers that say something and people are like, yeah, I agree. And then you'll get, you know, sometimes people getting ratioed. But they get more quote tweets than likes. It's like, this guy's in trouble or this person's in trouble. But yeah, it's just it's just all part of what we do. Like we said, you're in the firing range. Like, when you put yourself out there, there isn't a password, there isn't a 2-step authentication to have people swipe their opinion. When you put something out there publicly, prepared to get positively, you know, praised or completely slandered.
Yep. Absolutely. That's unfortunately the human condition, and that's just unfortunately because we're both in a public facing internet based role. We have to come to terms with shit, man. That guy says my fucking mustache looks like a porn star from the 80s, and I just have to accept that.
I've been called Dave Chappelle. I've been called, people think I'm F word. people think I'm infectious.
Oh, damn.
I remember there was an event where people thought I was Problem X, and I was like, I mean, Problem doesn't have hair, and I do.
But you're both from the UK.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, and then there were, people have been racist.
That's such a fucking universal thing, dude. That upsets me so much, right? And like, unfortunately, for the amount of times that I've hung out in production teams, and as you said, like, commentators tend to kind of gel with commentators. We're all extroverts and we're all fucking hyper nerds. So
not every commentator is extrovert.
No, absolutely. And like, but I think for like you, me, C4, Dunk, Acoustics, St. Cola, like all of these boys tend to kind of gravitate toward each other. And like that we could have conversations outside of broadcast. But if you look at those guys that I named, I'm the only white person on that, right? So we were out in Paris and I was out in the gang. We were looking to get something. We were looking to get something to eat, right? Just simple. There was maybe 6 of us. You walk up to a door. Hey, what's going on? Table for 6. There goes private party. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I don't see it. I'm fucking white. I've been white all of this time. This isn't a new thing. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I remember it was St. Cola. Like, was it St. Cola? I can't remember. One of the dudes anyway touched me and goes, hey bro, it's fine, don't worry, we'll go somewhere else. And I was like, no man, what the fuck, dude? I saw like a fucking quesadilla. I want a quesadilla. Like, shut the fuck up, dude. I'm gonna go here. And he was like, no man, we'll go somewhere else. I didn't understand that this dude did not want 6 black guys in his fucking restaurant. And I was like, wait, what the fuck? That's a real thing? Like,
no, you'll get it. We've had this when I went to Poland to do a job. Me, St. Cola, Rob TV, shouts to Rob TV, F Word. Like, do you know what? F Word, Rob TV, and Cola, they got put in a Polish music video with one of the biggest Polish YouTubers.
No way. What?
Because they saw it. It's funny, but it isn't. They saw it as an opportunity because they're never gonna get again. So it's right. We do like Polish hip hop or something. Let's get black people of it. And it was like they just like, yeah, we're in a video, but I don't know what they'll say to Polish. But we were walking around and some homeless guy called St. Cola Jimi Hendrix. Like, legit, he just pointed at his hair and just said Jimi Hendrix. It's like, nah, like it happens everywhere, man.
Dude, I didn't even realize, because like, I'll be real with you, like in Ireland, there's not a lot of black people hanging around in Ireland, right? Now, I'm not judgmental, but I just didn't understand it. So, like, I only learned about sickle cell 2 years ago or something. Like,
yeah, it's a trait. You can have a sickle cell trait. You can actually downright have sickle cell. So I think I've got the trait.
Oh yeah, shit.
Yeah,
dude.
I've got the trait.
But I only learned about that when I got into esports, because I just started hanging around with black people, and like, I hear stories.
You made that sound so wrong.
I don't mean to, like, you know, yeah, but that's when it started. No, but you know, like, that was just part of the vernacular for the group that I was becoming associated with, like, you know. Right. And like, I hear stories about shit, dude had sickle cell or whatever, dude died of sickle cell, like, you know, crazy shit. And like, I had no fucking idea, man. I'm talking like gluten intolerance was the majority of, like, that was the peak. Yo, that's the white disease, man. Fucking gluten intolerance, man. Shit, bro. You can't eat pizza? That sounds shit, bro. Hate to be you, man. Like, you know, then I hear about sickle cell and I'm like, fuck. That shit, like, you know, you can't live when you, like, you know, you can't have kids and shit. Like, I don't know, man. I don't want to get into that sort of shit, but like, I'm an idiot, and I come from a tiny little island. Like, our population is 5 million people, and I want to stress that, because I don't mean shit. When I say shit, I don't mean it offensively. I mean it in a, I have no idea what's happening around me. So when I
So
say,
it's kind of like you kind of lack knowledge, or it's unbeknownst to you.
of course, explain it to me rather than saying that I'm racist, because some of the jokes I make come across as racist, and I understand that, right? Like, but
I think that's for anyone.
But explain it to me rather than critiquing me. If I understand, if I, at the root level I understand, and I mean to be hurtful to you, punch me in the face, straight up, like KO me in the middle of a group of people, and I'll understand that. But I don't get this. I didn't grow up in this culture. I don't understand. I'm a tourist here in this world. So when I say some shit, I mean it to make people laugh. I don't mean it to hit you in your soul.
Like be malicious about it and, stuff like that.
I'm not, in no universe am I being malicious. I bring a bottle of whiskey with me to video game shows. I am not the figure of authority.
I mean, listen, people are gonna interpret things, and it only takes 2 seconds to judge a person.
Of course.
Even with the work we do, it takes 2 seconds to judge a guy.
Absolutely.
And people they're gonna have their own impersonations.
But dude, I got called racist about the nature of bears, man. The Kuma and Panda and Tekken. I said.
I remember you telling me that.
Everyone knows fucking black and white is more, or brown is more aggressive than black and white. And it was like, if you thought that was racist, dude, you should hear some old guys fucking talking in a pub.
Well, listen, we've had it with the whole chink in the armor situation. As well.
Exactly. You clearly don't mean offense by that.
Sometimes it's you'll say it before you realize what you've said.
Of course. It's vernacular.
And it's like, that did not come out the way I wanted it to, but it's not what I mean. And then it's like, do you quickly apologize live on camera? Because remember, when you're live, there's no take back.
Yep.
When you're live, there's no take back.
You don't.
Like, that's it.
You don't. Do you? Like, I would just run with it, and unless my commentator said something like, "Oh, you can't say that," and I change maybe chink in the armor to like, I meant to say gap in the armor.
Dent in the armor, window of opportunity.
Yeah.
There's other things you can say. It's just that it just comes to mind like that. But it's very interesting how things get interpreted and how entertainingly dangerous this job can be.
But it's a popularity contest. This is what I tell my buddies.
Well, listen. You say it's a popularity contest, and it's like, well, listen. Some people pay for followers.
They do.
Some people it naturally goes, but it's all about being at the right place at the right time, and obviously when you do get opportunity, it's how you take advantage of it.
Absolutely, and I can't think of a better way to end it right there as Jammerz.
Do you know what? I'll tell you this, right? Let me ask you this. So Tekken 7's got one more year, and you're going to be transitioning into Tekken 8.
Yep.
Do you feel? Because I think this is how I think with certain things, right? For one more year, Tekken 7, do you think you confidently make a smooth transition into Tekken 8?
No, I don't think there's no such thing as a smooth transition. They're different games. We're obviously the figureheads in our respective titles. So everybody's expecting us. You're expected to be Street Fighter 6 commentator, right? I'm expected to be the Tekken 8 commentator. But that's gonna require a fuckload of work. If you think I don't know, Street Fighter 5 is what, to 8 years old, 9 years old now?
7 years old.
7 years old. Okay, so about the same as Tekken. I was in a totally different world 7 years ago when I was getting into Tekken 7. I had so much time to engross myself into the entire universe that was Tekken 7 launch and read patch notes frame by frame, kind of breaking into sort of shit. I don't think my spot is secured. I think I'm going to have to absolutely work on this sort of shit, and I think that's fucking great, because if Tekken 7 just went on forever, nothing would change.
Because it's I think one thing people got to remember, same with 5 to 6, any new game, there's a button called reset.
Yep.
And it's you have to work from the ground up. Yes, some people have advantages over others in terms of professionalism, but when it comes from square one to wherever you end up, it's going to be the exact same thing. So I think it's going to be interesting. I was just curious. That's all.
It is. It's going to shake up the whole thing, and I think that there's a lot of industry mainstays that, just from what I've explained to them, they're not ready to dive back into a new game. So they'll get brought in for the bigger shows or whatever, but they're not about to be around for, you know, your local Europeans or kind of semi-majors or whatever. They'll be there for the finals and Evo, and they're not ready to keep up to date with, which is what a new game is going to be. And I'm sure,
listen, it's difficult, man. All this stuff, Mark tells me all the time. He's like, this stuff is a young man's game, and it's like, well, the less responsibilities you have, the more time you do. Unless it's like literally your livelihood, and you do this. Like it's a different kettle of fish in comparison to some of the young guys that are like, yeah, I've got time to look at this matchup. This is like, oh,
yeah, it's why you have guys that are 45 competing against guys that are 16. Like that's the reason why the guys who are 45 have already developed that knowledge, and the guys that are 16 don't have the responsibilities to like neglect when they learn this sort of shit, so they can grind for 36 hours straight in Street Fighter to play against the guy who's 45 and has been playing since Street Fighter 2. Like, you know, like, you know, it's a fun world we live in. And
you know what? I got one last question before we wrap this up, because this has been long. I know it's not as long as there's another guy. It was over 4 hours or something. I can't remember.
Klobku, I think, was 3 hours. I think.
Right. So one last question. If any game in esports you could commentate, is there a game that you're not commentating now or part of the show that you want to be? League of Legends,
yes.
Valorant. What game is that?
There absolutely is, and it is a game called Smite. And Smite.
Okay.
Do you know Smite? Yeah.
Yeah. C4 used to play it all the time.
No way was C4.
C4 used to play it.
C4.
Punk plays it.
Shut up.
Did he not tell you?
Dude,
wow.
I don't talk about that, man, because that's like my dirty little secret, man. Dude,
C4 used to play a lot of Smite.
Dude,
Punk plays Smite every now and then.
We were in Germany, and I met this host. She was a CS:GO commentator. Lovely, lovely, incredible woman. Huge, pushing that women in esports like vibe and stuff. Would host massive events and stuff. But she ended up working for the Smite Pro League, and I was on the bus with her talking about like players that I knew that before I was in the esports, I was a fan of esports, and I'm explaining these guys, and she's like, yeah, they were you know, like Pretty Prime, like these names don't mean anything, but Adapting and Pretty Prime and like Degars and these sort of guys, like old school Smite guys. Like, she was like, oh, they're actually really nice guys. And I was like, shut the fuck up, you met them. What are you serious? These guys are gods to me, like, you know. But yeah, if I could become a Smite commentator, if somebody offered me a contract tomorrow morning, I will see y'all later, man. I'll do the Tekken big shows, man. And I love Tekken. I absolutely do love Tekken, but my allegiances come from esports and Smite, you know.
Okay, nah, I like.
What about you? What about you? Would you do? What's a show that you wanted to do? You watched the show, you wanted to do it, but we've no connections in that. Like COD.
Gears of War.
Nah, Gears of War, yeah.
Gears of War's got an esports league.
Dude, Gears of War, fucking sick. It's sick, yeah. Dude. Like,
I played that game since it first came out in 2006. Like, yeah, Gears of War. If I could get some sort of esports like representation there, or just like an appearance on a show, just be a fanboy on the panel.
And Marcus Phoenix, let's go.
Is there anything else? Well, I'm
Call of Duty, surely, right?
I'm infiltrating the Tekken scene. That's fine.
All right, that's it. That's it, man. We need a whole other podcast to talk about, like, dude, I feel like it's so funny because I would absolutely sit and talk to you for another 2-3 hours just about like. So we've talked about commentary, and I feel like that
barely scratched the surface.
But exactly what I'm saying. Like now we need to talk about the industry. But I feel like we're out of time now. Jesus Christ, we're almost 4 hours into this.
Right, hey man, it's a podcast with no structure, and we go on tangents, have a good time. If people want to listen to it, if you listened to it the whole way, then you're a trooper. If you didn't, that's fine.
That's
I
it,
mean,
man.
we just said some stuff, and it was a drink at the bar.
That was it. Absolutely. Jammerz, I'm actually going to end it there. I didn't even realize, man. Sláinte you. I'm drinking my fucking 6-year-old wine, man. But thank you so much for jumping in. I do appreciate it. Shout outs to the editor that's gonna have to sit through 4 hours of fucking shit. All right. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Have a nice evening.